We are active on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. We are active on YouTube. YouTube is activated and on. Good morning, YouTube. Active on X. Good morning, X. Facebook is good. LinkedIn, we are in. Instagram is working. TikTok looks like it's working. We were trying to figure some things out on TikTok. They got this new thing called boards, so y'all can see the topic here today. I don't know if I'm blocking that, y'all can see it behind me. But anyway, we'll get into that in 1 second. Let me get everything pinned properly over on all the other apps, and then we will get into what we need to get into here today. Hope everyone's having a great start to your work week. For those of you who took the vacation, took the holiday yesterday, let's get back to business here today. Topic here today, and I don't know, TikTok's not populating very quickly here today, but we'll see if that changes as we get into this. Topic here today, we're going to talk about this Fed case against Sean Diddy Combs. I talked about this extensively last week. We talked about this, so I'm going to talk about it more here today. And I don't know if this board is getting in the way of what normally happens on TikTok. TikTok seems to be slow to populate this morning, but we will go into it as we need to go into it anyway. I want to talk about this. Someone said it is not on. Can you hear me on Instagram? Sound good on Instagram? Can you hear me on Instagram? Leave a comment. Let me know you can hear me. I am checking on TikTok for whatever reason. It's looking slow over here on TikTok. But are we good on TikTok? Can y'all hear me? Sound good? Just give me a comment. Let me know if the sound is good over on TikTok. Let me know if the sound's good on Instagram. Are we good sound-wise so we can get into what we need to get into? Because there's a lot of things that need to be discussed here today. We are good on sound? Okay. I don't know why TikTok's slow to load here today. Can y'all see these little these titles that I have here on TikTok? So they got these moving titles. So I put my book, thirddaybook.com. Can y'all see that? And can y'all see this title right here that's like next to my face that says Diddy Fed Case Week? Can y'all see that? If you're on TikTok, can you see that? I can see it, but I don't know if y'all can see it. So I'm just asking if you can see that over on TikTok. Y'all can see that? Okay. So this is some new thing that I saw on TikTok, these boards, because sometimes people come in here and say, what's the topic? So you have to use this story thing. I had to pick one. Story is one, and then free, you had to pick that. So you can't just write whatever you want. You got to kind of use the templates that they provide. And this is something. This is a start, TikTok. They could do a lot better. Can y'all hear me on Instagram? Instagram, can you hear me? Can you hear me on Instagram? I need a comment from somebody on IG. Let me know that y'all can actually hear me. Make sure the sound is working. Is the sound good on Instagram? Somebody let me know so we can get into what we need to get into here. So we will get started in one moment because there's a lot that needs to be, first of all, understood. And then I'm going to get into what I want to explain. All right, they can hear me. Crespo Realty, good to see you. Good morning. All right, let's get into it. So Sean Diddy Combs. All y'all know Sean Diddy Combs, or I call him Puffy Combs because he was puffy when he first came out, when I first heard him. Sean Puffy Combs, or Puff, or Diddy. So if you hear me use one of those, we all talking about the same person, okay? He is facing 3 federal charges, and we got to be clear what these charges are. And a lot of people are not clear on what the charges are because that plays a big role in how this case is working out and why it's working out the way that it is. So his 3 federal charges, keep these in mind. He's facing a sex trafficking charge, an obstruction of justice charge, and a witness tampering charge. And based on what we've heard so far, there could be some solid reasons why you could believe this is going to happen. But it's a lot early in this case, but I'm going to talk about what I've seen so far. When you step back and look at the facts of the case, the facts that are being presented in court, and these are the facts that the jurors are going to make a decision based on, these facts, not the facts that we heard on the internet, but the facts that are actually being presented in court. When you step back and look at the facts of this case looks shaky to me as far as on the Fed side, because the federal prosecutors are the ones who are trying to put him away and charging him with a crime and trying to incarcerate him. This case is looking weak to me as far as I'm concerned. Now, there's not anything about Puff or Diddy personally. I don't know Puff or Diddy personally. I have no affiliation to the man. And if he was to go to jail or he was to not go to jail, has no direct effect on my life in any tangible or intangible way. However, I'm just looking at the case as they're presenting it because they're saying this guy should go to jail. And in America, everybody gets their day in court. And in his day in court, this case is looking weak to me. The government appears, this is what they're doing. they're waging a character assassination campaign on Diddy. And they are using that public perception that they are building up because they know everybody's reporting on everything that gets said in court. So even though because this is a federal case, for those who don't understand how these work, federal cases, you can't bring cameras into the courtroom. So there are no cameras. So you remember the O.J. Simpson case from back in the day, there were cameras everywhere because that was a state level case where you can have video cameras and all that stuff. But on a federal level case, there are no cameras allowed. Why that is, I don't know exactly what the reason is, but there's no cameras allowed in a Fed case. So what they're doing is, well, of course, everybody's reporting it. So you can follow people, bunch of people on YouTube and TikTok, et cetera, who are giving full reports on what's happening in the courtroom every single day. And they're assassinating this man's character, and they want to use the public perception to carry what legal evidence has failed to prove so far, failed to show, not even prove, but show so far. So let's talk about what's really going on here. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 41 books. I am a 4-time TEDx speaker and owner of this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here in simple terms is we help professionals and entrepreneurs level up their games the same way that athletes are trained to level up. We train professionals and entrepreneurs to level up using my background as an athlete and the system we've created, taking the things that help athletes make it to the top, and we teach those to business people. So if you're in the sales space, you're an entrepreneur, you're a service-based business, or you have a sales team, you have a team of people in your business, any people in your business, don't even have to be a sales team. What we do over here can help you. You can learn more about that by going to the links that you see in my profile at workonyourgameuniversity.com, or just send a direct message and someone on my team will get back to you. So let's get clear on what the charges are against Sean Diddy Combs. So we have to be clear on these charges because this is the baseline of what everything is about. Even though we know a lot of the conversation on social media is just about how people feel personally about what they're hearing about him, because the stuff that has been said in these court cases by the witnesses does make Puff or Diddy look crazy. I talked about that last week. If you didn't see that live that I did last week, please go watch the replay because I can't recap all of it because it was too much stuff. But what we do know for sure is that y'all saw the hotel lobby, not the hotel lobby, but the elevator lobby video where Puff is beating his girlfriend's ass, a girl named Cassie, who was a singer, not a very good singer, mediocre singer at best, but she was a singer who Puff, pretty girl, but not a good singer. He signed her to his label and basically turned her into his girlfriend more than she was doing any type of music for the most part. And y'all saw that video where he's beating her ass when she's trying to get on the elevator, allegedly while she was trying to run away from one of these parties that they call freak-offs, where Diddy would hire men to have sex with Cassie in front of him, and then the man would finish on or in Cassie, and Puff would take the specimen from the man and put it on himself, and he's into some wild stuff. And we all remember the baby oil stuff when the feds went into his houses and they seized a whole bunch of cases of baby oil because he was into this baby oil shit. And he was filming all this stuff, which was dumb because that really put him in a bad spot, filming everything. But anyway, I talked about that last week, so y'all can go look all those things up. So these are the charges that he's actually being charged with. And the things that I just mentioned have nothing to do with the charges. So first one, to convict him, they got to prove these things. He has a charge of racketeering conspiracy. This is also known as the RICO law, RICO, racketeering conspiracy. The government must prove that Puff was running a criminal enterprise, which they had to prove that it's criminal because we know he had a business. We know Puff had a business. He had a business called Bad Boy Entertainment or Sean Combs Enterprises or whatever his business was called. He probably had more than one. And we know he did music. He did TV. He did some movies. He did acting. He was all in the entertainment space. So it's not like the only thing he was doing was criminal enterprise. But that doesn't mean it's not a criminal enterprise. But they got to prove that because we know on the surface the guy was actually doing business. And that Diddy knowingly agreed to participate in this enterprise. In other words, he knew he was doing crimes. He was doing them anyway. That the enterprise engaged in at least 2 predicate crimes. So to prove RICO, you need 2 underlying crimes. The underlying crimes could be things such as trafficking, bribery, obstruction, kidnapping, or similar. They have to prove that. And the criminal acts have to be related and part of an ongoing pattern. This is what they're trying to build up right now. And that the enterprise was structured and it involved more than one person working together towards illegal goals. This is a very key point. To get the racketeering charge, they had to prove that there was a structure to it. In other words, there was a plan and a process and a system. And we're going to do this, then we do this, then we do that. There's dates, there's times, there's schedules. They had to prove it was structured and that more than one person was involved to reach these illegal outcomes. I don't know how the hell they're going to do that because the only person they're going at right now is Puff. So when you see a RICO case, often there are multiple people being charged. There's only one person being charged right now, which is Puff. I don't know. We'll find out. I will find out about this if Cassie she could have been the co-conspirator, of course, but she got immunity. We'll get into Cassie in a second. She got immunity from the feds, but they had to prove that other people were involved in this process, which is kind of shaky because there has to be someone else who was involved in helping him do this structured crime. But as you can see, everyone who's around Puff is testifying against him, right? Everybody's testifying for the feds against him. So they're all testifying as if I was just doing what I was told. I was not part of this known and intentional criminal enterprise. The only person who was doing it, everybody's pointing at him. Everybody's saying he's the guy. But for it to be a racketeering conspiracy, you need at least two people. So who's the other person? Even with Cassie, who has been given immunity, if she's the other person, they still had to explain, because the thing about Cassie is that her whole argument for Cassie is that because he abused her mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, sexually, pharmaceutically, because he abused her in so many ways, all the things that she was doing in conjunction with Puff is because he was controlling her, not because she actually wanted to do it intentionally. So she can't be the co-conspirator. So who the hell is the co-conspirator? All right, they still have to prove that. And again, the case is still ongoing, but they have to prove that somebody else was involved, because it has to be more than one person working toward the legal goal to get a racketeering charge. That's the way the law is written. And it must be proven that conspiracy was real, not just isolated or personal behavior. So it has to be an overall conspiracy. It got to be a plan. In other words, that's what a conspiracy is. You have to prove that there was a plan, not just one person doing wild shit, which is what it looks like so far. Right now, this case looks like Puff was doing a whole bunch of wild shit, but that ain't RICO. That's the point that I'm making here. Again, I'm not defending Puff's behavior. It's not about his behavior. It's about, can they get a conviction based on the charges that they bought? The charges that they bought, they have to prove. And this is not proof of a RICO. There's a mosquito in here. I hate the mosquitoes in South Florida are different than the mosquitoes where I'm from in Philadelphia. They're quieter and they're more sneaky. Now, you can get bit by a mosquito and not even feel it. See, and mosquitoes up in Philly, you can feel it, you can see it. These mosquitoes are trickier. I hate mosquitoes. But anyway, they got to prove this conspiracy was real and not just isolated or personal behavior. Right now, it's looking like this guy was running around doing wild stuff. That ain't RICO. Anyway, the next charge. I missed. All right, next charge. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. All right, this is the next charge they got Puff on. The government must prove that Diddy knowingly caused a person to engage in a commercial sex act. He caused them to do it, meaning they didn't do it on their own volition. He caused them to do it. They engaged in commercial sex act. That he used force, threats, coercion, or fraud to make it happen. In other words, like when they're saying that he had these freak offs and Cassie would get involved, that he forced her, threatened her, and used coercion to do that. Looks like they are trying to build that now, because there's so many people have got on the stand and said, I saw Puff beat up Cassie or threaten Cassie. They weren't around during the freak offs though. But what they're saying, they're trying to draw this line that if you saw him beat up Cassie in front of you when there wasn't a freak off happening, you saw him whip her ass inside of a car, everybody saw him beat her ass in the elevator, that all of that is connected to, if he did that out in the daylight, imagine what he was doing behind the scenes with her, which she already testified to. So this is the line that they're trying to draw here. That the victim, that's Cassie, did not participate by choice, but under pressure or manipulation. Again, this is why the whole, she was addicted to pharmaceuticals, because Puff got her on the pharmaceuticals, that he used to whip her ass a whole bunch of times, and that she didn't really want to do it, but she was under pressure to do it. The challenge with that, the mitigating factors with that, is that there's a whole bunch of text messages of Cassie texting Puff saying, I want to do the next one. I can't wait to do it again. I had so much fun with you. I love you. I want to have sex with you again. She's saying that in her text messages, but her whole argument is, well, that's because he had me under his spell and I was under his control. That's a tough one. The reason I say that is because this is basically becomes when you're talking about this type of manipulation, force, threats, coercion. This is all he said, she said. This person is saying it was this person saying it was that, and this is a matter of who can present their case better. The biggest challenge for Puff right now, if I'm his defense team, biggest challenge is that in the world that we live in today is that we no longer have, they have he said, she said. One person says something, another person, and you got to decide which argument you want to believe, or which argument you want to believe. The problem that we have here today is that there's no more he said, it's just she said. That's all we get. We just get she said. There's no he said. Doesn't matter what he says, does it? Right now, there's a bunch of you listening to this. It doesn't matter what Puff says. It doesn't matter what his defense says. He said it's completely irrelevant in the minds of a lot of people these days. This goes along with the whole movement, the pushing of feminism, and destruction of the patriarchy, and people attacking that and all this stuff. And it's time to let women step up and men need to stand down, et cetera. So this attack on masculinity is happening in society these days. Puff is a victim of that right now. Even if he wins the case, he's a victim of it because he said is no longer relevant. It's only she said. It's only what the other side has to say. And it's all about what she said right now. And that she didn't participate by choice, but under pressure or manipulation. The government has to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Here's my question to the audience. Is there a reasonable doubt that Cassie was actively involved in this and wanted to do it? Based on those text messages, there's a reasonable doubt. Now, that doesn't mean she couldn't have been under his spell or that he was coercing her or that he molded her into being this sex slave, whatever you want to call it. But is there a reasonable doubt that he was just controlling the entire thing and there was no vote under her own volition, not at all, 0%? No. There is a reasonable doubt that she was actively involved and wanted to do it, at least on some level. And on that alone, you must acquit. Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. So that's why this case is looking weak to me, but we're not done. Testimony alone is not enough. Okay, so this again, according to the law. Testimony alone is not enough to prove this charge of sex trafficking and of force, fraud, or coercion. The prosecution must show proof of intent and a lack of consent. This is where this charge right here falls on very, very tissue paper thin standing, is that they must show proof of intent by Puff to do this and a lack of consent by Cassie. The problem is a bunch of those text messages that Cassie was sending to Puff sounded like she wanted to do it. Now, again, they can say, well, she only sounded like that because he molded her into wanting to do it. But again, that becomes a he said, she said, and that introduces a reasonable doubt, which means just by the rules of the way court works, he must be acquitted of that charge. That charge can't stick if that's all you got. You can't stick that charge on that based on, well, she didn't consent, but she's in the text messages saying that she wants to do it. That's enough. If I'm a juror, that's enough to say we can't convict him on this charge. Let's continue. Another charge. Here's the third charge. Transportation for purposes of prostitution. All right, this is another thing that Puff is charged with. The government must prove that Diddy knowingly, and by the way, I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. The government must prove that Diddy knowingly arranged for someone to travel across state lines. Okay, I think he arranged for people to travel across state lines. That's not a crime. But the travel must be for the specific purpose of engaging in prostitution or unlawful sexual conduct. I don't think that happened. Now, were they hiring people? They were hiring people off Backpage, off Craigslist. And Puff was doing what he was doing. I mean, Puff's a guy who's known for doing $1 million video shoots and having the shiny suits and the cars and the bottles and the champagne. Why was he going cheap on his sex workers? They were hiring sex workers off Craigslist. That's actually been said in the court. I don't know why they were going cheap with that, but Puff seemed to go expensive in everything else he did, but he went cheap with the sex workers. They were even paying, even the people they hired off Craigslist, they would pay them more money than they actually charged. There was a guy, if y'all heard about the testimony last week, there was a guy, he wrote a book. I saw Myron Gaines say this in his recap. There was a guy who was a sex worker. He charged to do the sex work. I think his charge was $200. Pay me $200. Actually, he wasn't doing sex work. He was a stripper. So he was going to go strip at a party. And this is all from the testimony. He was hired to come strip at a party for Cassie. So a woman hired him for a party. He didn't know who it was. He gets to the place where the party's supposed to happen, the hotel, and the woman happens to be Cassie. He said he didn't know who Cassie was when he first saw her. He later found out it was Cassie. So when he gets there, the woman opens the door and says, well, it's actually not a party. I just want you to do some dancing for me personally. And the guy's like, okay, whatever. He's still getting his $200. So he comes in, and when he's getting dressed and getting ready to do whatever he's going to do, a man walks in wearing he has his face covered. And you can see his eyes, but you can't see the rest of his face. I think they call it a burqa or something like that. So he comes in, the man comes in, he has his face covered. You only see his eyes, so he couldn't tell who the man was. That was Puff. So Puff walks in the middle of this. So anyway, y'all can find out more about the testimony. You can't listen to it. You can listen to the notes from people who were there. And what happens is, as they're doing the stuff, eventually Cassie gets the man. She convinces the man, hey, have sex with me, do this, that, and the third with me, and I'll pay you your rate. So instead of paying him $200, and I may have these numbers for, but his charge was $200. She gave him like $400. Then after he was done, they asked him to do something else, and he kind of didn't want to do it. And then he got more money. They gave him like $800. So he ends up walking out of there with like $1,200. So clearly they were willing to overpay people who wanted to play ball, so to speak. No pun intended. And the thing is, this guy, what's funny about this guy is that he wrote a book. This guy's an author. And he wrote a book called Freezer Meat. Freezer Meat. What the hell does that mean? So this guy claimed that he had some issues with ED, erectile dysfunction. And he had gone to therapists and tried to work it out. And he wrote a book about it, I guess, telling other men how he figured it out. And the question is, why is the book called Freezer Meat? So the lawyers, when he's on the stand, they asked him, why is your book called Freezer Meat? And he said, well, there's nothing harder than freezer meat. That was his response. He said, what's harder than freezer meat? So what he was, the whole concept was, his book was about, how do I deal with this erectile dysfunction? I'm trying to get my freezer meat and I can't get my freezer meat because remember, his whole job was being this man who goes out and dances for women. So he needed that freezer meat. This is a part of his business. It wasn't just a personal issue. This was a professional issue. He needed the freezer meat. So this guy literally has a book called Freezer Meat. And I remember I was listening to someone talk about where is it? The book is called In Search of Freezer Meat. Excuse me. In Search of Freezer Meat. So let me pull it up because I saw this book and I think this book started going viral on Amazon because when the testimony came out, I think a bunch of people went and looked it up. So this is the guy, his name is Sheree Punisher Hayes. So his nickname is Punisher. He called himself the Punisher. And here's the cover of his book, In Search of Freezer Meat. All right, so this is one of the guys who testified against Puff on behalf of the feds last week. This guy named the Punisher. This is not actually him, but he said, and the guy with the thought bubble says, where's my meat? And the woman is sitting there saying, he must not be into me, based on the true struggle, Sheree Punisher Hayes, In Search of Freezer Meat. So anyway, they're trying to prove that the travel was for the specific purpose of engaging in prostitution or unlawful sexual conduct. I don't think that's going to be proven. The trip can't be innocent or incidental, but directly connected to sex for money activity. I don't think this charge is going to stick. This doesn't look good. And that Puff, Diddy, had the intention from the start to use the travel just for the purpose of sex. How are you going to prove that when this guy is known for being a business mogul, entertainment person? Everywhere he goes, he's doing business and he's mixing business with pleasure. I've read articles about Puff before this charge ever happened, just about him as a businessman. And the people who work for him all said the same thing, that the line between work and play is very blurred with him because he would be at the club and it seems like he's partying and having a good time. But at the same time, he's doing business because part of his business is being this public persona of the guy in the club with the champagne bottles. And he's playing the music and he's listening to the music and seeing what songs are working, what songs are not working, so that he knows what songs he needs to make so they can get played in the clubs because that's how he sells his records. So he's doing business and he's playing at the same time. So this charge, again, this sex trafficking charge, let me tell you again what it must prove. The trip can't be incidental, but it must be directly connected to sex for money activity. I don't think they can prove this with a guy whose very business is being a jet setter who's flying around doing business everywhere he goes. And he happens to do personal stuff at the same time. All right. Sex is part of the deal. It's part of his brand. I mean, Puff got like 7 or 8 kids. All right. Sex has been part of his brand from the very beginning. He's been talking about this since the 90s, how he has sex with so many women and this, that, and the third. So how are they going to prove that? I don't know. So they must connect the act of travel to commercial sex with clear evidence. I do not see this one working. This is the weakest of all the charges. Simply flying somewhere and having sex is not illegal unless it's done for profit and with criminal intent. I see this charge failing. This charge right here is going to fail. Transportation for the purposes of prostitution, this is going to fail as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. Flying somewhere and having sex is not illegal unless it was done for profit and with criminal intent. What's the profit? He wasn't selling it. He wasn't making any money. And so that doesn't make any sense. They were spending money. They were spending money when they were hiring people to come have sex with Cassie and urinate and come and all this stuff. That was him paying. That wasn't him making money. He was getting paid. He was paying to do it. So where are they going with this? Anyway, continuing. Across all charges, as I already explained to you, the prosecution must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't see that happening, at least with 1.5 of these. The first one, they might have a chance. The RICO, but even that one is weak based on what I just explained to you. The sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. This one, they have the best chance just because they got the argument of Cassie was basically brainwashed. And this transportation purposes of prostitution, I don't see this one working at all. That one is a complete zero as far as what we've seen so far. Okay, so far. That's the disclaimer. The jury cannot convict based on discomfort, personality, or public perception. This is the part that all of you need to understand. I think many of you understand this logically, but when emotions are introduced into a situation, people tend to forget this. You cannot be convicted because people are uncomfortable with you, because they don't like your personality, or because of your public perception. And I'm going to explain to you why Puff still is not in the clear yet, despite the fact that I just defended him. He's not in the clear yet. And I'm at this point right here. Keep this in mind when I get to my explanation. The jury must see concrete evidence that crimes occurred and that Diddy knew there were crimes occurring and that he intended to commit crimes. So he was doing something that's criminal. He knew it was criminal and he did it anyway. All right, that's what they got to prove. They have to prove it, not allude to it. They got to prove it. And absent that proof, the charges do not hold up legally, no matter how wild the personal behavior appears to be. Again, this is what they're asking a juror to do. The charges do not hold up legally, no matter how wild the personal behavior appears to be. So, and again, I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. So this is a RICO case. The feds had to prove a criminal conspiracy involving multiple people. Who are the multiple people? Again, Cassie is the only alleged co-conspirator. She was granted full immunity. So let me tell you how they played Puff in this whole situation. So Diddy was with Cassie from like 2007 or whatever it was. And they broke up in like 2016, 17, 18, something like that. She goes and marries this other guy who was a personal trainer who knew exactly what the hell kind of lifestyle she was living. He married her anyway, and they got like 3 kids together. Good for him, I guess. Anyway, if she's the co-conspirator, here's what happened. The video comes out because there was always rumors about Diddy and what he was into and if he was gay and all this stuff. He was with Cassie all this time. We see the pictures and all that stuff. Cassie's a pretty girl. Diddy was looking good with her. So he breaks up with her. And it was 90 days, 6 months after after I saw the announcement that Puff and Cassie were no longer together and she was with a different guy. She seemed to get with a different guy really quick. So it's always interesting when people break up and they're already in a new relationship real quick and they already having kids and getting married. Happened really quick with Cassie. And we know why it happened really quick because she already had a relationship with this guy before she broke up with Puff. Because he was a personal trainer hired by Puff. And he ends up, you can't even say taking his girl. I wouldn't even call it that in this case. But whatever. He ends up marrying the girl that Puff was with. And again, all the stuff she was doing, we ain't got to talk about that. Now, so I remember Puff announcing, because it was announced that Cassie was pregnant. I think it was pregnant. It was like the first thing that came out about her new relationship. Cassie's already pregnant. She was with Puff for like 10 years, never got pregnant. And then she gets with this guy and in like 6 weeks, she's pregnant. And Puff put out an announcement, hey, congrats to Cassie on her pregnancy, et cetera, et cetera. So he was kind of making it look like, all right, yeah, we're good. This is like 2018, whatever year this was. And it was pretty much quiet from then. From 2018 to 2019, nobody was saying anything. Now, you know anything about federal agents is that they build their cases quietly and they only let you know about it when they're ready to arrest you. So they were probably working on Puff for a long time. They just needed the right material to use against him to make this charge stick. And here's what happened. That video came out. That hotel video where he beats Cassie's ass and drags her back to the hotel room. That video was what the feds needed. If that video didn't come out, none of this would be happening. Now you might be asking, why is that the case, Dre, when that video is not even part of the charge? He's not charged with domestic violence. The statute of limitations on that is already up. He's not charged with beating Cassie's ass, even though we know he beat her ass. The charge happens because the feds, they're human too. And they understand that if we're going to get any type of support from the government and from the people for the charge that we're bringing, we need to give them a real reason to believe it. So look at this. We got a video of Puff beating Cassie's ass. This is enough to get public sentiment against Puff. Now we can finish everything else we're going to do. Now we can get his ass. That's why they did it. That video was recorded from the surveillance footage that the guy who took that footage, he testified already in court. And what he said was when he saw the video on surveillance, he recorded it on his phone and he kept it on his phone because he wanted to show it to his wife. But the actual footage, the direct footage from the hotel security, Puff paid off the hotel to delete that footage so that they wouldn't have it. This guy was smart. Puff ain't no dummy. He knew that footage was on video. He went to the security, paid off security to get them to get rid of that footage. So there's your bribery right there. So they got him on some things, but are they going to be able to get these charges? We don't know. And there's a whole bunch of other charges of bribery that he's had. I mean, not charges, excuse me. Stories of bribery about Puff going back years. But again, we'll get into that maybe today, maybe later. Cassie After that video comes out, she goes and sues Puff for $30 million. She drops the lawsuit. If y'all didn't see the lawsuit is public record. Y'all can go read the lawsuit, every detail of the lawsuit. And there's a lot of things in that lawsuit that haven't even been brought up in court yet. So she sues Puff for $30 million. Within 24 hours, Puff settles the case. And by settle, that means somebody sues you for $30 million. You go meet with them. Y'all decide on a number. You pay off that number. They drop the lawsuit and they agree to never sue you again for the same things that's in that lawsuit. So the settlement, we come to find out, was for $20 million. So Puff got sued for 30. He paid her off 20. So Cassie got $20 million in the bank. Boom, done. Now that video came out of her getting her ass beat in the hotel. The security in the hotel, technically, legally, what they're supposed to do when they see something like that is the reason why they have security footage. Is that if you go into fucking Whole Foods and you steal something and the security guard sees you steal something, they're supposed to come stop you and do something to you because you stole something, right? They're supposed to do it. That's the reason why they have the footage. The reason why they have surveillance is to catch people doing bad things. They clearly see a man, doesn't even matter who it is. You're working security at a hotel. I believe it was the Intercontinental in Southern California. You see a man beating the shit out of a woman on your security footage and you don't do anything. That's negligence on behalf of the security staff of the hotel. Cassie sues the hotel. They pay her $10 million. So she got 10 from the hotel. She got 20 from Puff. So Cassie got $30 million in the bank and a new husband, boyfriend/husband. She marries the guy. So she's married to him now. So they got $30 million in the bank. Now the feds come in. They come to Cassie and say, look, here's the deal. We're about to get your ex-boyfriend, Puff, on a RICO charge, and they explained to her what a RICO charge is. It's conspiracy, racketeering, et cetera, et cetera. We got a bunch of evidence. You would be one of his co-defendants because you were involved in this, because you were calling the sex workers. You paid money to the sex workers. You actually literally handed money to the sex workers. You were sending text messages to the sex workers. You were arranging the freak-offs and making sure the different sex workers came to the parties. You are a co-conspirator in this RICO case, Miss Cassie. What's Cassie's last name? Ventura? Ms. Ventura, you are a co-conspirator in this case. However, here's what we'll do for you. We will grant you full immunity, which basically means we can never charge you with these charges and you cannot go to jail for anything that you tell us. We'll grant you full immunity if you agree to testify against Puff. You just got to be very open, very honest. You got to tell us everything, even the things that make you look bad. You cannot go to jail for this because we're going to grant you full immunity. All we need you to do is work with us on our side and testify against your ex-boyfriend. Cassie said yes. That's how they got the case. That's how it happened. So Cassie went and got $30 million from Puff in the hotel. Then she got full immunity from the feds. And now she's testifying against her ex-boyfriend to put him away for the rest of his life. I don't even know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't think it's either one. It's an interesting thing. I would have to think about that one for a while as to how I feel about that. She was with this guy for 10 years. And I guess she decided at the end that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And I'm not talking about breaking up with him, but anybody can break up. But the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And now she decided to testify against the man. I get it. I understand. There's a couple things I'll say on this. Number one, she's a female. And if the feds come to a female and say, we're going to make you a defendant in this Fed case against you, we're going to come at you and try to put you in jail unless you cooperate with us and go against the person who used to be your partner, most women are going to fold and they're going to cooperate with the feds against the man. Most women would fold. This is not a knock on women. It's not a condemnation of females. It's a note to the men that if you're going to do something that's not on the up and up, keep women out of your business. Because a woman is more likely to fold than a man. Now, there are men out there who will fold too. But if you're doing something that could land you in court, don't do it with a woman. Don't have women involved because a woman will fold on you. And Cassie folded on Puff because Cassie could have easily just said, fuck you, feds. I'm not doing that. Even though I'm not with that guy anymore. Even though you see the video of him beating my ass, I was with him and I loved him for the time that I was with him. And even though I'm not with him anymore, I ain't going to try to put the man in jail. So if y'all going to build a case, I'm not going to help you, number one. I'm not going to testify on your behalf, number two. And I'll just go let Puff know that y'all are doing this. He got $100 million. He can hire good lawyers and me and him will be co-defendants and we will beat the case. She could have did that. She didn't do it. She folded. She already got her $30 million from Puff. So this is why it happened the way that it happened. I'll give you another example of someone else who said this. I'll give them credit because it was actually a very good point. And I believe, actually, he said this before the Puff case. So the guy who got kicked off all social media, you know that guy? Tate, that guy? He was talking about this when he was going to court, when he was dealing with his situation with his brother. And he said that when they came after me, him talking, when they came after me, they went to everybody I know, every woman I've ever dealt with, every man I've ever been cool with, and they all came to them with the same thing. All we need you to do, his friends, everybody around him, we need you to testify against this guy. We will grant you immunity. All we need is some information against this guy that we can use in a case to bring him down. And what Mr. Tate said was, nobody folded. Nobody on my side folded. None of my people folded on me. None of the girls folded on me. And that's the reason why they can't build a case against me. And that's pretty much how it works. That's pretty much how it works. Any of you listening to this, if you ever have authorities trying to bring you down, the first thing they do is go find all the people around you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, your business partners, anybody you deal with, and they offer them the same thing that they offered Cassie. They offered them the same thing they offered anyone around the kickboxer, Mr. AT. They offered the same thing. They say, all we need you to do is give us some information that incriminates this person even more. We will grant you immunity. We'll even give you some money to do it, and you can help us bring that person down. And Cassie said, sure, I'll help you. She already got her $30 million. So why not? She already got her $30 million out of Puff. Now, if she didn't have that $30 million from Puff and from the hotel, she might have said no to the feds and stayed on Puff's side, because then Puff could have paid her off for being on my side. But she just took the money. She already had the money. Then the feds come. And I think it happened. I got the order of operations wrong here. Here's what I think actually happened. Video comes out of Puff beating Cassie's ass. The feds see that. They say, we already been building the case against this guy, but this right here is what we need to really bring it home, because we need the girl to testify against him. So they went to Cassie and told her the whole thing. And they said, here's what we're going to do first. Go file a lawsuit against Puff and lay out all the terrible shit that he did. Go detail it. Get your lawyer to lay out all the terrible shit that he did. Sue him. If he settles or pays off that case, or let's say Puff said, no, I'm not paying off this case, Cassie, fuck you. And they went to court, civil court. Then all of that shit would have came out in civil court. Then they could have used everything that came out in civil court against him in the Fed case. But Puff said, no, let me settle the case. He settles the case immediately. Soon as he settled that case and paid that $20 million to Cassie, the Fed said, we got what we need. Now, all we got to do is go to Cassie, get her to cooperate. She already agreed to cooperate. They just said, go sue him first and get paid. Now you can cooperate with us. This is all a coordinated plot. All this was coordinated. The feds are the ones. You want to talk about a conspiracy? All right, that's a conspiracy right there. That's not a crime, but that's the conspiracy. They planned this whole shit on Puff. And he's the only one that didn't know what was happening. As soon as that video came out, all this stuff got activated. Now, again, the Fed's been watching Puff forever because he's a known person. He flaunts how much money he has, allegedly, and what he's doing and who he is, et cetera, et cetera. And he's made a lot of enemies. And when you combine those things, your public recognition, the fact that you always talking about what you have, and you got a lot of people who don't like you. All right, that's a good combination for ending up in court. And again, look around. Look around at the people who end up in court. They all got the same three things. Everybody knows who they are. They always showing you what they got and how they're high and mighty, and a bunch of people don't like them. All right, same Mr. AT, same thing. Known, telling you how good they are, how great they are, what they have, and a bunch of people don't like them. And that's how you end up in court. If you're a man, if you want to go to court, that's all you got to do. Get known, tell people how great you are, and make a bunch of enemies. You will end up in court, guaranteed. That's what happened to Puff. So, as we continue, the conspiracy, again, was by the feds. They're allowed to conspire. All right, that's the reason why they're the feds. And it's the reason why they have unlimited resources to attack. So she was granted full immunity to testify against Diddy. She is technically the co-conspirator. So what I don't know, and we have to find out, is that Cassie, as a co-conspirator in this whole thing, maybe she is the other person in the racketeering case, but because she's been granted immunity, they can still just go at Puff, and Cassie is basically the unspoken co-conspirator who is not going to be charged. I think that's what they're doing, because I don't see another person who they're going to bring into this as a co-conspirator. It looks like everybody's testifying against this guy. That's all I see. Everybody's testifying against Puff. Everyone who's around him, his managers, his personal assistants, his former artists, everybody is testifying against him. Nobody's defending him yet, because the defense hasn't called their witnesses yet. Now, Cassie is a star witness, and again, her testimony is already done. My perspective is this. If Cassie is the best witness. She was the star witness of this case. She was presented as the star witness. And the only reason she went first is because she's pregnant and about to burst and give birth to her, I believe, her third child with her current husband. That's the reason why they rushed to have her go first, so that she wouldn't be able to not testify because she got a baby. If she's the star witness and she's the best shot that they have, and everybody else is kind of lesser from here, I don't like this case for the feds. If I'm on the Fed side and I'm just having a meeting with the feds, I'm like, this don't look too good. Now, but they do still have an ace up their sleeve, and I'm going to get to that in a second. The feds have not proven a criminal enterprise. All they've done is made Diddy look like the scum of the earth. They have succeeded in that. Now, if you want to say Diddy looks terrible and as a horrible person and definitely a sexual deviant, that one definitely. I'm not going to say is he looking bad right now? Yes. Would I say he's a horrible person? No, because I'm just not in the business of judging other people. I'm just not in that business. I'm not in the business of moralizing. I don't like when people say, well, another person's a bad person or they're terrible because of this and that. I can say you look bad. I can say you look terrible based on the way things are playing out. But for me to judge you as a person, and me to judge your character, I'm not into that. I don't care what you did or what you were accused of. I'm just not into that. So I'm not going to say that about Puff the person, because I don't know Puff the person. I only know what we see on TV, like most of you. But is he looking bad right now? Absolutely. Is he looking horrible right now? Yes. Will he be able to come back into the industry if he beats this case? No, because his name is in the mud. All right, he's in the mud. No, whether he wins or loses, the Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Puff name is in the mud. All right, forever. All right, from this point forward. He's too old to bring it back. It ain't like he's 27. He's dude's in his 50s. So anyway, the feds have not proven any criminal enterprise. They made him look like a terrible guy, though, which matters. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Diddy has publicly run a legitimate business empire for like 30 years. He's been around for a long time. Those of you who don't know, I first heard of Sean Puffy Combs. That's what they used to call him. Sean Puffy was the name he first came out with. I first heard of this dude in like 1993. All right, Puff been around for more than 30 years, literally doing business. So he was in the music business with Jodeci, Heavy D, Mary J. Blige, all the way to Biggie, Mace, and all the other people. He's been around for a long time. So to say that he's running a criminal enterprise, the challenge with that, based on the way the law is laid out and what they had to prove, is that you had to separate what he was doing business-wise from what he was doing personally. And again, I just told you all this 20 minutes ago. The people who worked with him before this case, I read articles about Puff going back 10, 15, 20 years. They talk about this stuff, that this guy, there was not a clear line between business and pleasure. All right, so he would do pleasure and business at the same time. And the way his lifestyle was designed, that's the reason why he was so famous. Because a lot of people looked at that and said, that's what I want to do. I want to be doing business and having fun at the same time. So being around a bunch of girls and being in the club and having bottles and dancing to music is not only fun, but it's also his job. Like, you get paid to do that. Who doesn't want to do that? And in that era, when Puff was the man, that's what everybody was trying to do. I want to go to the clubs, have a bunch of girls with me, listen to a whole bunch of music, drink champagne, be the man in the club, and all of this is part of my business. This is not something I'm doing when I get off work. This literally is my work. So how are you calling that a criminal enterprise? Again, they had to draw a line of delineation between the two. I don't see it possible to do that with the guy who literally made this a thing. Y'all understand, when you go to a club and you order bottle service, that didn't exist before Puff. Puff is the reason why you can buy bottles at the club. The reason why people go to the club and they want to sit in VIP, and you got to go on Instagram and order VIP before the party, is because of P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy, whatever you call him. The reason why artists have walkthroughs or famous people have walkthroughs. A walkthrough, for those of you who don't know what it is when you see a flyer to go to a club in South Beach and they say, hey, Kim Kardashian is going to be at the club tonight. And Kim Kardashian is not doing anything. She's not a dancer. She's not a singer. She doesn't do anything. All right? What she's going to do is at some point, Kim Kardashian is going to walk in. The DJ is going to announce, hey, everybody, Kim Kardashian is here. And they're going to put the spotlight on her. And she's going to walk through the club. And she's going to sit in VIP for like 20 minutes. And she's going to drink some bottles. And she's going to dance around a little bit. And everybody's going to take pictures of her. And all the people in the club are going to feel good because they're in the same place as Kim Kardashian. And then 15 minutes after that, Kim Kardashian is going to leave out the back door and go home. And she gets paid $30,000 for doing that. That's called a walkthrough. The reason those exist is because of Puff Daddy. He created this entire industry. The nightclub industry is what it is because of P. Diddy. I'm saying that not to defend him. I'm saying it to help you all understand that the RICO charge is that he was doing all these things specifically to do criminal work. But the fact of the matter is this was his fucking job. That's all he did. This is his job. His whole job was doing all of this stuff. So how are you going to draw this line of delineation between the crime and the work? I don't think they can do it. And again, it'd be one thing if it was some other person doing this. P. Diddy literally created this world where the personal and the business was all mixed in. You can't separate these things. It's like tangled web. You ever have a whole bunch of wires from like TV and stuff thrown in a drawer in your house, and you're trying to untangle the wires and you can't untangle them? That's this. How are they going to untangle this? You can't do it based on the kind of guy that he is. Anyway, prosecution is trying to paint that business success was just a front for the criminal enterprise in the back. I disagree with this. I don't think they're going to succeed at that. And if this is what they're trying to do, this case should fall flat. If that's what they're trying to do, we'll see, because the case is not over. All right, the case is still going. They're trying to say that the business that Puff ran was simply a front so that he could do criminal stuff in the background. Now, do I think Puff might have did some criminal stuff based on the stories that I've heard? Not even in court, but just stories I've heard. Probably. Yeah, I think he probably did some criminal stuff. Now, are they going to be able to prove it? I don't know. Somebody telling a story and proving it are two different things. Now, I said I believe he might have did it. That doesn't mean I can prove he did it. Those are two different things. I've heard people tell stories about Puff that, damn, if that's true, that's criminal what he did, but he got away with it. Can they prove it? I doubt it. Now, let's be clear. To win a jury trial, you don't really have to prove anything. All you have to do is convince and influence. Remember what I told you all? I've been telling you all for weeks. Facts don't matter. They do matter, but they really don't. To win a court case, you don't need the facts. To win a court case, you need to convince the jury. Let me ask you all a question. Has any of you ever dealt with a human being who was convinced of something, even though the facts went against what they were convinced of? Put yes or no in the chat. Have you ever seen a human being clearly convinced of something when you knew that the facts went against what they were convinced of? All of you have seen that before. So again, facts don't matter. All right, do y'all understand why I say facts don't matter now? Okay. To win a jury trial, all you got to do is convince, is it 9 jurors or 12? I don't know how many jurors in this Puff case. Let's say 12 jurors. You got to get those 12 jurors to agree with your interpretation of the facts, not the facts, the interpretation of the facts. That's the reason why you have lawyers. Because if the case was only about the facts, then we could have fucking ChatGPT decide the case, because ChatGPT can decide logically better than any human being on the planet, and faster. Reason we have humans involved is because the facts had to be interpreted. This is where artificial intelligence falls short. This is where you need human intelligence, is that they got to interpret the facts in a certain way. And that's how you win or lose a case. This is the reason why lawyers matter so much. This is the reason why Johnny Cochran is famous, even though he's been dead for a long time, because his interpretation of the facts saved a man who a lot of people thought was dead to rights when it came to that charge that he had. Because the lawyer did a great job of interpreting the facts in such a way to convince the jury to go with the story that he had. And again, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. You got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high burden of proof, as opposed to a civil case, which is more likely than not. That's a very low burden of proof. This is why any man charged with a sex charge on a civil case usually ends up losing. That's the reason why Puff settled that case, because he knew he wasn't going to win. He knew if he went to court, he wouldn't win that civil case. So why don't I just pay her off? I might as well pay her 20, then go to court and pay 30. All right, that's the calculation that you got to make. And that's the way it works when you get to that level of status. I might as well pay 20 and have her shut up, then go to court, lose, and have to pay 30. All right, so he saved himself $10 million. It's pretty much what he did when that case hit. Now, the better situations never had that type of thing happen in the first place, but that's a different conversation. So Cassie already got $20 million from Puff, $10 million from the hotel. It looks like more of a financial hustle than a sign of criminal guilt. And it's a great hustle. Shout out to Cassie and I guess her husband. But shout out to Cassie. This is a beautiful hustle what Cassie pulled off. Beautiful hustle. She got, the feds set this up. Actually, let me shout out the feds, because Cassie ain't that smart of a business person, and as far as I'm concerned. She was that smart of a business person, then this whole situation wouldn't even happen. The feds are beautiful. This is a beautiful hustle by the feds, because the feds are the ones building the case against Puff. They just needed the right thing to use against him. The video was that. They went to Cassie, said, we're going to prosecute you too. Instead, you can work for us, and we will grant you immunity. First, go get your money out of Puff. She went and got her money out of Puff. Go get your money from the hotel. She got her money from the hotel. All right, you got $30 million, Cassie. All right, now you're working with us. Now you're going to testify against him. You're going to tell us everything we need to know. Now, with all this evidence that they got from Cassie, now they were confident that they could go get Puff. That's when they raided his house in LA. That's when they raided his house in Miami. That's when they hit him with the charge. Beautiful hustle by the feds. Well executed. This is why you don't want the feds after you. You don't want the federal authorities of any country after you, because first of all, they got access to as much material and resources as they want. They can surveil everything. They can go to any person you've ever shook hands with, and they can get one of them to flip. All they got to do is put some pressure on that person, put some pressure on them. And especially if we're talking about somebody who doesn't have a bunch of money. Cassie didn't have a bunch of money, but she had access to people who had money. Now, imagine they go to somebody who has no money and has no access to anybody who has money. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to flip. They're going to flip like, what's that woman's name? The gymnast? They're going to flip like Simone Biles. All right, they're going to flip as soon as the feds knock on the door. Flip, done. Flip, easy. They're going to flip like Simone Biles. The feds come after them. So again, all of you out there, if you're doing anything that is below the line, you better check the people you're doing it with and the people who know about it, because they will flip on your ass quick. All right, especially if they ain't got resources and they never been through a situation like that. So it's a beautiful hustle, not really by Cassie. She gets the credit for the hustle, but the feds actually masterminded this. I don't think Cassie's that much of a hustler, just from what we know. So the thing is, based on her testimony, we know this. Cassie was actively participating in a bunch of the things that they're now trying to paint as abuse. Cassie is calling it abuse from the stand, but she's not the prosecutor. Prosecution is saying that this was abuse by Puff. The problem is Cassie is admitting to being involved in it, but the mitigating factor is that she was being abused in such a way that she basically she disconnected from what she was actually doing and was just doing what Puff said. Basically, he brainwashed her. So Puff is just this criminal mastermind who could brainwash people and get people to do whatever he wanted them to do because of the fear he was able to instill in them and the power that he had and the reach that he had and the money that he had. He can make pretty much anything happen. Now, to be clear, to support the Fed's case, a bunch of people come on the stand and pretty much said that. Dawn, who used to be part of on Making the Band, she was in Danity Kane. She was also on the Dirty Money album that Puff made called Last Train to Paris. Last Train to Paris. That was actually a great album. Y'all like the Last Train to Paris album? Put the word Paris in the comments if y'all heard that album. That album was actually really good, but the album didn't really blow up. For some reason, the album just didn't go. But I still listen to the album every now and then, or songs from the album. That was a great album. And anyway, Dawn was in part of Dirty Money, who did that. I don't know why they called it Dirty Money. It was a whack name. But the album was great. She testified last week and said she was afraid of Puff. She was afraid of his reach. She was afraid of things that he could do. But at the same time, she stayed close to him and would still like text message him and try to maintain a relationship with Puff, even though she was afraid of him. And why is this? And this is an important point, because he had so much reach and so much power in the industry that Dawn, who was a singer, she wanted to be close to somebody who had all that power, because Diddy could basically say a word and help Dawn make some money and do some business. Cassie basically said the same thing. This guy has so much power, even though he's doing terrible things to me, the amount of power that he has, I still wanted to be connected to it because it could help me possibly. He could help me maybe get on a song. And Cassie did some songs here and there. Again, Cassie ain't no great singer. It was why her career didn't really go that great, not because of Puff, because she just ain't that good. And at the same time, I didn't want to get on the wrong side of that power because I knew what he could do. Again, Kid Cudi's testimony. All right, he broke into my house, allegedly. He firebombed my car, allegedly. And again, who wants to get on the wrong side of that? Everyone who's testified against Puff has said this guy had so much power that I didn't want to be his enemy. Therefore, I did whatever he told me to do, even though what he was telling me to do is the wrong thing. Now, the question is, because that sounds pretty convincing, right? If you're a jury, question is, can they convince the jury of that? Can they convince the jury that all of this guy was just so mentally dominant that he was able to get all these people to do bad things or turn a blind eye to bad things just because they were afraid of him? Can you prove that beyond a reasonable doubt? That's what you got to do. They got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not sure that's going to happen. So far, I don't think that's going to happen. But let's continue. Cassie's immunity makes her look more like a co-defendant than a credible witness, which is exactly what she is. Cassie's a co-defendant, basically spilling the beans on Puff. But because the feds have granted her immunity, she's basically shitting on him and trying to help put him away. I'm only thinking, and I said this last week when I was talking about Puff. He's sitting there on the stand, and Puff has been out for 30 years, as I said. Everyone he's dealt with in the last 30 years is going to take the stand and talk about him. And a lot of them are talking against him. He helped a whole bunch of these people get on. Like, I never heard of Cassie before she got with Puff. And her name is her name because she was with Puff. Even when she was with him for 10 years and ain't really put out no music. But everybody knew who she was because she was standing next to him. Now, I knew who Cassie was because she was standing next to Puff. Not because I heard her. I didn't hear her talk. I didn't see anything she wrote. I didn't listen to any music she recorded, but I knew who she was because she was. Every time I saw Puff, I saw her. And there's a bunch of people he put on, a bunch of security he had with him, staff he had with him, people who worked for him, and they're all getting on the stand and not trying, but they are cooperating with the feds to help bring this man down. I'm just imagining what he's thinking. I was with this girl for 10 years. She's on the stand telling all my shit and all the shit we did together to bring me down in my case. I'm just trying to think how he might be thinking in this situation. And according to people who have been watching it, there's a YouTube channel called, I think it's called Law and Crime. Is that the name of this channel? Let me see if I can find this YouTube channel. I think it's called Law and Crime. But they've been doing a whole bunch of reviews on what's happening. Yeah, Law and Crime Network. They probably got a couple million followers on YouTube. And they do a breakdown. They got a girl who's in the courtroom every day. She does a breakdown every day on what's happening in there. And they say Puff is active. Like, he's not just sitting there listening. He's like taking notes and he's talking to his lawyers and he's actively involved in this whole thing, which he should be because he knows all these people. He dealt with all these people and his life is on the line right now. He's like in his mid-50s. He gets convicted of this. He's not coming out. And that's it. So the government has stacked this case. I don't know if y'all know this. I didn't know this till I started looking into it. But the prosecution, the Fed prosecution, 5 women prosecutors. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. 5 women prosecutors. Now, mind you, this case is about sexual coercion, sex trafficking by a man with a whole lot of money and power and status, wealth and fame. And they got 5 female prosecutors. That's a smart strategic move by the feds. I'm not knocking it. It's a smart strategic move by the feds. And all it does is it plays into this whole bigger picture. A man with all this power and resources, abusing his power and resources to take advantage of an innocent, helpless woman. That's the frame of this entire case. That's the frame of this entire case, even though that is not a legal charge. That's the frame of it. And they're going to use, this is the frame that they're using to bring him down. That's the whole point of this whole situation. So let me get to a couple more of these points, then we'll get to the Q&A in a second. So this could easily be more about public optics and emotions than it is about factual legal grounds. Of course it is. That's not a could. Let me take the word could out. That's what it is. This whole thing is to make him look terrible in the public eye, make him look terrible in the eyes of the jurors, and based on that emotion, it will overpower any logical argument that his defense team could mount. And the defense has not even made their case yet. They haven't even gotten their chance. The feds are still calling their witnesses. The defense gets to call theirs. And I'm interested to see who the defense is going to call as a witness and what angle they're going to take. I don't think their angle is going to be bring up a bunch of people to say Puff's a good guy. I don't think they're going to like call Puff's mom to the stand to say, hey, my son's a good guy and he helped me out and he bought me a house and bought me a car. I don't think it's going to be a whole bunch of character witnesses. No, sometimes when someone's on trial for a crime, they get a bunch of character witnesses, a bunch of people to come to court and basically say, this person's a good person. So all the negative things you heard about them, they try to mitigate that by having people come up and say they're a good person. I don't think the defense is going to try that. I don't think it will work. That's it. Right now, given what we've heard, I don't think it's a good idea to try to call anybody to be a character witness for Puff, on top of the fact of who the hell wants to do it. Would any of you right now, let's say you were best friends with Puff, would you take the stand and defend his character right now as a defense witness? The defense called you and say, hey, I want you to come to court and defend Puff, defend his character, say good things about him on the stand. Even if you're telling the truth, the fact that you took the stand to defend him after all the shit that got said about him, you're going to look bad just because you're defending him. Again, even if you knew him and you really had positive things to say about him, you wouldn't take the stand to defend him right now. So that's the reason why I'm saying I don't think they're going to go with that angle, because who's going to agree to doing it? Who would do it? I don't think there's anybody on the planet right now that would take the stand and defend P. Diddy. Nobody. And I don't think he would ask anybody to do that. I think he's smart enough and calculated enough to understand, all right, who's going to say yes to that? Nobody. So anyway, what I think he's going to do, or the defense is going to do, is that all they're going to do is just they're going to beat them up on the facts. They're going to beat the prosecution case up on the facts and say, hey, none of these things that they've said proves these 3 charges. So it does prove that he is a sexual deviant and maybe he did some things he shouldn't have done. He did some regretful things, but does this prove he's a sexual deviant? The answer is no. No, it doesn't. That doesn't prove it. So none of these things make him a sexual deviant. It just makes him a person who was doing some wild things sexually, but that doesn't make him a bad guy. So anyway, continuing. Looks like Cassie's the only person with a mic. Let me back up. This is truly a trafficking ring. There should be multiple victims coming forward. Multiple victims. If you have a sex trafficking ring, there should be multiple victims. Just like Mr. AT over there in Romania. All right, there's multiple victims allegedly, but what about this one? We only got one person, Cassie, and she's a co-defendant. So this one again is looking funny. So far, it looks like Cassie's the only one talking right now, and the feds are building the whole thing on her word. And here's what's going to happen: the defense is going to destroy. They're going to shoot holes through everything Cassie said. That's what they're going to do when they get their chance. And Puff is known for having a lot of money. His lawyers are really good lawyers. They are going to run wild with every discrepancy, every negative thing they can come up with when it's their turn to call witnesses. They're going to run wild on Cassie. All right, that's going to happen. So if Cassie thought she was under fire then when she faced cross-examination, wait till the defense comes up and they start bringing people up to undermine her character. That's going to happen, guaranteed. The defense is going to call a bunch of witnesses to undermine the character of every single person who's taking a stand against Puff. And RICO cases are supposed to dismantle organized crime. That's what a RICO case is for. You know, they created the RICO to get people like John Gotti, Al Capone, people who are running literally organized criminal enterprises. Puff Daddy's an entertainer. That doesn't mean that he's squeaky clean, but we can see that he ain't. But is he running an organized crime ring? I don't think so. Doesn't look like it to me. Now, did he do some things that are criminal? I think so. I think he did. Is he on trial for those things? No. And does that mean he should be convicted for these things? No, it doesn't. They're assassinating his character right now. That's what they're doing. This is character assassination. That's all this is. And this approach looks like they're looking for headlines. They want to convict him in a court of public opinion. He's already convicted. In court of public opinion, Puff's done. I already said this. So they're saying that he was tampering with witnesses and obstructing justice. They got to prove these things. And again, this becomes he said, she said, and he said, because there's going to be a bunch of people who take the stand and say this. I've heard stories. These people are going to be on the stand. What we're seeing now are accusations, no real evidence, no real receipts, just a whole bunch of somebody says something, somebody else says something. And this is what you call it's like the bandwagon fallacy, or I call it the laundry list fallacy, or the Gish Gallop fallacy, which is when you just list so many negative things on one side of a conversation that it's impossible to counter every single point because there's so many of them. So it's like the laundry list. Let me just give you a laundry list or the grocery list. Give me your grocery list of all the negative things about Puff. Now he's got to try to respond to all of those. He can't because it's too many of them. The list is way too long. You got 300 people come up and testify against him. He got himself testifying against himself. Well, he must be guilty. Look at all these people over here and all these people over here. That's a logical fallacy, but it's very convincing to a lot of people. That's the reason why it's a logical fallacy, because it tends to fool people. And jurors are humans. The people working on a jury are supposed to be completely objective. They're supposed to not look at anything about the case. They're supposed to not be listening to anything like what I'm doing right now. That's what they're supposed to be. Be completely objective, completely logical, and completely rational when it comes to only looking at the facts of the case and deciding completely rationally like a robot. Problem is, humans ain't robots. The reason why they're making the case this way is to emotionally sway the jury. The jury's not supposed to be emotionally swayed by anything, but they're human. They are emotionally swayed. Every human is emotionally swayed by things. And that emotional sway will be enough to overcome the fact that logically, objectively, this case does not quite add up to a conviction, not what they've shown so far. So the media is running wild with this. Again, Puff's name is being run through the mud. And nobody's asking, where's the actual criminal behavior that justifies a RICO charge? A few people are asking it, not many. And not a lot of people want to say these kind of things out loud right now because a lot of people are shitting on Puff's name and saying anybody who would defend Puff, something must be wrong with you. Right. So there are people probably saying that and thinking that right now about me because I'm, quote unquote, defending him. I'm not really defending him. I'm defending the law. The law says you're innocent until proven guilty and that any charge must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. They haven't done that yet. I'm defending what is legally on the books in the United States of America. It just happens to be Puff, but it's not about him personally. Again, I don't know the man. So Cassie getting immunity means she won't face consequences for her part in this alleged enterprise. So if Puff gets convicted for this alleged criminal enterprise, the girl who he paid $20 million to and the feds granted immunity to, she was the person who was also helping in his enterprise because enterprise requires more than one person. And she's not going to face anything. She gets to go live her life with his $20 million in her pocket. I believe, and the defense is going to say this, trust me, this is coming up. This undermines her credibility. And it gives a huge incentive for her to say whatever the government wants her to say. Just think about it. The government went to Cassie and said, you're going to testify against Puff. Go sue him first and get your money. So now you got your $20 million. Now you're our star witness. We're granting you immunity. So in exchange for that immunity, we need you to say all the right things on the stand to help us bury this guy. And she said, okay. And now that brings into question her credibility. immediately because she has an incentive. Human beings respond to incentives. If you give a person an incentive to do something, they are more likely to do it, even if the thing that they're doing is not actually true, not actually on the up and up or 100%. Why? Because you incentivize them to do it. So the government said, Cassie, you're our star witness, so we need you to trash Puff and make him look as terrible as possible on the stand. So we're going to train you and coach you on exactly what you're going to say on the stand, how you're going to say it, when you're going to cry, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying she made it all up. What I'm saying is she's incentivized to make him look as bad as possible based on what questions that she's asked. And that undermines her credibility because she's not objective. Cassie's not objective in this situation. She was with the guy. He allegedly was beating her ass. He already paid her $20 million, and she has immunity from the feds. So, of course, who's she going to support? She's on the feds team. She's on their team. That's a home game for her to do whatever the feds want her to do. And in defense, when Puff's lawyers get to make their case, they are going to undermine everything about Cassie from the time she was born up until now. Guaranteed. They're going to undermine her husband because he was her personal trainer. And my experience knowing things about people like personal trainers, barbers, hairstylists, even personal coaches, is that you end up learning a lot about your clients that have nothing to do with the actual thing you got hired for. Why? Because you talk. Y'all have conversations. So that personal trainer knew what was going on in Cassie's life, and he knew what was going on, and he ended up marrying her anyway. They're going to undermine his credibility, even though he ain't take the stand yet. No one is off limits. That's what's about to happen. There are no there's no war without casualties, and there are going to be casualties to people's character. Y'all think Diddy's the only one whose character is going to get destroyed in this case? You got another thing coming. Wait till the defense comes up. They're going to be coming out no holds barred on everybody who's taking the stand. So understand, everything has a trade-off, folks. I told you all this. I've told you all this many times before. The trade-off of taking the stand against Puff is that his lawyers get their say too. All right, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So even if Diddy's personal behavior was wild, I'm gonna take questions in a second. Even if his personal behavior was wild, that's not illegal if everybody involved was an adult and was consenting. What they got to prove is that it was illegal and that he was forcing it. That's the difference. So all the stuff he was doing, do I think it was sexually wild and deviant? Yes. I think that stuff I heard that she let a man not only finish in her or on her, that's not that crazy, but to urinate, that's crazy. In her mouth, that's crazy. And he married her, that's crazy. And Puff was still with her after watching another man do that to her last night, and now you're out holding her hand in public the next day. That's crazy. Do I think all those things are crazy? Yes. But they're not crimes. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. All right. It's wild out here in these streets. It's wild out here in these streets. Man, that's what you want. That's how you want to live. That's how you want to live. All right. I ain't judging nobody. However, that ain't no crime. All right. If that's going to be a crime, you got to prove it. That's not illegal behavior. The law does not prosecute lifestyle, folks. You can't go to jail for a lifestyle choice. It prosecutes a crime, and they got to prove a crime. Now, I already told you about the public eye. Puff's done. Publicly, Puff's done. Even if he wins, he's done. He's going to become somebody who was really publicly out there, and now they're like quiet. You never hear their voice anymore. He's going to be like that. All right, that's who Puff's going to be in the future because he's done as far as being out there in the public. He ain't going to be dancing no more on TV. All right, that's over. There's a big difference between a damaged reputation and a legitimate conviction. All right, that's a difference. And the feds got to close that gap. They're not done yet, but this is all they got. All right, this is going to be an L. And, people say the feds usually win like 90% of their cases. It's higher than that, maybe 92%, I think the number was. That the federal authorities, if you get charged with a federal crime and you go to trial, you don't accept a plea deal, but you go to trial, that the feds have a 92% conviction rate. That means out of every 100 cases that the feds take to trial, 92 times out of 100, they win. Now, why is this the case? Well, first of all, it's a home game for them. You got the federal authorities are charging you in their courtroom. And, well, they didn't get to pick the jury, but it's their whole case. They bought the whole case. They have unlimited resources to hire the best lawyers, the best attorneys, get all the evidence they want. They can go anywhere and find anyone to testify against you. They can coach you up on how to testify against whoever's going against. They can coach them up to testify to go against you. This is the reason why they win. It's a home game for them. They should win most of the cases. It's like sending Steph Curry to the free throw line. Most of those shots are going in. Why? It's a home game. It's easy for them. That's the reason why they win most of their cases. And if they lose, it's a big deal. When the feds lose, it's a big deal because they rarely lose. So what some people are saying is that Puff might try to go to the feds and accept the plea deal if they are willing to offer it. Because here's what happens. Before you get the charge, the feds will come to you and say, look, we're about to charge you. And they got to announce when they charge you, the arraignment, the indictment. All right, we're going to charge you. And if you're convicted of all these crimes, you'll face 30 years in prison. Let's just say the number is 30. They'll say to you and your lawyers, okay, here's the charge. If we go to trial and you lose, it's 30 years. But we'll offer you a plea deal. A plea deal basically means you basically plead guilty. That's what they're going to say. Plead guilty to this. So it becomes a win for them. They get the win. They get the stat that says we won because you pleaded guilty. You plead guilty to the charges and to all the charges. And they can negotiate with this, but let's just keep it simple. You plead guilty to all the charges. Instead of doing 30 years, which you would have done had we convicted you, we are going to offer you 10 years. All right, so you do 10 years instead of 30. So this is similar to a lawsuit. So if someone sues you for 30 million, you can settle out of court, pay them 20 instead of paying 30. All right, so you save yourself the time, you save yourself the extra 10 million, you save your lawyer fees, just pay them 20, make them go away. This is basically just a similar concept to what a court can do when they offer you a plea deal. Instead of you getting 30 years by losing, we'll offer you 10 years by accepting the plea. Because again, they still get to say you're convicted because you pleaded guilty. They still not convicted, but you pleaded guilty. So that's a win for them. They put you behind bars, which is their whole game. Their whole game is to put you behind bars. That's what a prosecutor's job is, put people in jail. So one thing I will say to defend Kamala Harris is that when she first came out to run for president, a lot of black people were saying, well, all she did was put black people behind bars. Well, she's a fucking prosecutor. That's what she's supposed to do. The job of a prosecutor is to put people behind bars. That's your job. Literally put people behind bars if you committed a crime. And by the time you go to court, they are convinced you committed a crime. That's the reason why you're in court. So anybody want to say I never defended Kamala Harris? I just did it. Clip that out and make sure you save that. All right, I've just defended her right there. All right, her job is to prosecute people. So by the time all these things happen, and again, some people are saying Puff might try to go to the prosecution and get the plea deal, but right now the plea deal is not on the table. Or at least not that we know of. I don't know if they had to announce it. They probably don't. So they offered him a plea deal at first. He rejected the plea deal and said, let's go to trial because he got the money to fight. A lot of times people don't go to trial and they plead out because they don't have the money to pay for good enough lawyers to fight a case. That's another reason why you don't see a lot of cases go to trial, because people can't afford to pay lawyers. So it costs you more money to pay the lawyers than it costs anything. Just to be free costs a lot of money. So if Puff ends up winning this case and walking, it's going to cost him a good $50 to $100 million. To win the case, it's going to cost him $100 million. Why is that? Because he got to pay his lawyers. These lawyers ain't cheap. You know all the work they got to do? And lawyers ain't cheap. Now, you got any lawyers in here? Lawyers aren't cheap. There's a reason why a lot of people get law degrees, because you know you're going to make money when you're a lawyer. So anyway, now you might say, well, why would he spend $50 to $100 million to fight the case? Couldn't he spend less money to not fight the case? No, here's why. Because Puff is allegedly a billionaire. Is he actually a billionaire? We don't know. I really don't care. But let's just say he has $1 billion, right? Why spend $100 million of your billion to fight the case when you could maybe spend less? Because if he doesn't fight the case for $100 million, he pleads guilty. Well, that guilty plea is going to cause a whole bunch of his business deals to fall flat. It means he can't make money anymore. And it also might mean, based on the way the feds present the case, if you are found guilty of running a criminal enterprise and they prove that Sean Combs' companies and all the companies underneath it, like Bad Boy and all his music and all that stuff, if he pleads guilty to all of that was a criminal enterprise, guess what the feds can do? Anybody know what the feds can do? I'm putting this together and make it easy for y'all to figure it out. Somebody put in the comments, what can the feds do if he was to plead guilty to that? You know what they can do? There you go. KJ just put it in the comments. They can take all that shit. They can take everything he got. So if he didn't fight the case and he pleads guilty to this, and he pleads guilty to that RICO charge, that this was a criminal enterprise the whole time, they could take all his assets, all the money he made, all Notorious B.I.G.'s publishing, all that money he made from selling albums, all those Grammy Awards, the house in Miami, the houses in New York, the houses in LA. They could take all his shit. They could take everything he has, every asset he has. They can confiscate it, not because it needs to add up to a certain amount of money, but because he got it all through a criminal enterprise. Everything he got through a criminal enterprise, and all that money is dirty money. There's dirty money right there. That's why he should be called his group Dirty Money. All that dirty money paid for those houses, those condos, those cars, that jewelry, all this publishing, all the music, all that money he makes from all that shit. They could take all of it if he ends up being found guilty of this charge. That's the reason why he's fighting. That's the reason why he's willing to spend $100 million, because he's willing to spend $100 million to avoid losing $1 billion. You get it? Sissy said, "What if he has nothing in his name?" Oh, you don't know how the feds work. That shit don't matter. If they want to take your shit, they taking your shit. All right, that's how it works. If they want to take your shit, they taking your shit. All right, if you touched it, if you breathed on it, they can take it. If Puff bought a car for his mom and put the car in his mom's name, but he bought it and they know that he bought it, even though he put in his mom's name from the very day that it was purchased, they can take that car from his mom. If he bought a house for his mom and put in his mom's name, they can take that. If he bought a dog for his daughter and it's his daughter's dog, they can take the fucking dog. I'm being hyperbolic here, but this is the way the feds work. All right, they'll take everything. They'll take everything he got. So $100 million is nothing compared to losing $1 billion and all his future earnings. The reason why Puff is in the position he's in, because he owns a whole bunch of publishing from all this music he put out, that he put out or that he touched or he produced. In other words, music that got made in the 90s, if it gets played in a movie today or in an elevator or at a baseball game, Puff gets paid off that. That's the reason why he don't have to make music anymore, but he still makes money. So he owns an asset. Those are assets that keep putting money in your pocket even when you're no longer doing the work. This is what everybody aspires to do. Create assets that make money even when you're no longer working. If he loses this case, they can take those assets from him. So he has no way, he won't make money from those things anymore. Then on top of that, he can't go make money in public anymore. What the hell are you going to do? Well, he's going to be in jail, first of all. But if he was to get out of jail, what's he going to do? He has no way of making money. He can't make money by being Puff Daddy anymore. He can't make money off his assets because they took it from him. And he can't go back to the people he did business with because they won't touch him. What's he going to do? Y'all understand the situation he's in? Someone said he could appeal it. Yeah, he could. He could appeal it. Doesn't mean he's going to win. Again, on a Fed case, appeal. All right, good luck. That's what I would say. Good luck. How you going to appeal a Fed case? Anyway, all that being said, folks, I think I broke this down pretty well. I give myself credit for breaking this down, even though some of you don't like the fact that I'm quote unquote defending Puff. I'm not really defending him. Again, I'm defending the law. The law says innocent until proven guilty. And you got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Right now, there's still a whole lot of reasonable doubt in this case, which means if they had to decide today, the jurors should acquit. Johnny Cochran said it. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Right now, they must acquit. This is not an open and shut case. At least the way that a lot of people in the public are talking about it is not. So let me get to a couple comments here on YouTube. Sometimes on Rumble Studio, it refreshes my page for no reason. So let me get to these comments before it does that. Fit Business said he's a freaky MF. Can't deny that. No, I'm not denying that. Puff is a freaky dude. Black and Brown said crazy part is Cassie had the devices with the sex tapes. Yeah, I think they both had them. And that's also the bad thing for Puff is that he recorded all this shit. So if you want to know if he's a sexual deviant, we know he is because he was recording this shit. If he was just doing it and not filming it, then he might have a better chance. But he filmed everything, so now they got evidence of all the shit he was doing, which was stupid on his part. That was stupid by Puff by filming it. Black and Brown said, our people say he's guilty of the N-word, extortion, pharmaceuticals, even though he hasn't been charged with any of those things. Yeah, a lot of people say that because, I mean, it's just a bandwagon. This is what people do. When a lot of people are saying something, then more people just keep saying it. Chris said, not condoning what he did, but the prosecution case looks weak. They are proving he's a bad person. That is not what he's been. Exactly. So, Chris, we're on the same page. They ain't proved anything yet. O-Dog said, rich celebrities get paid to go to the club and poor people pay exorbitant charges to get into the club. Never made sense to me. Well, O-Dog, that's human nature. Again, that's what the walkthroughs are for. So they say Puff Daddy's coming to the club. Or who's somebody who's famous these days? Let's say Floyd Mayweather's coming to the club. All right, now he's going to box in the club. All he's going to do is walk in, walk through. They're going to bring the bottles with the sparklers coming out of it. You know, the girls walking around with the sparkling bottles. And Floyd's going to sit there for 30 minutes. He's going to drink some champagne. He's going to pretend to be dancing to the music. He's going to take some pictures. There's going to be some girls that come around him, and he's going to be looking all high and mighty. And then he's going to slip out the back door when nobody's paying attention. And he gets paid $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for doing it. That's the walkthrough. And then all the regular people, like O-Dog was talking about, the regular people, they paid to come to the club just so they could be in the club at the same time that this person's that person. I'll give you an example. So one of my best friends, he is not from, where were we at? Yeah, I was here in Miami, but his cousin, one of my best friends, his cousin was down here in Miami. I know his cousin, but I wasn't there with him. They're in Miami for like some trip or whatever they're doing. He's a younger guy. He's in his 20s. And they wanted to go to Club Live at the Fountain Blue in South Beach. Any of you been to Live in South Beach? And you ever been to the Fountain Blue in South Beach? Fountain Blue is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful resort. It's like Disney World for adults. So if you want a Disney World for adults, just go to the Fontainebleau, stay there for a week. You ain't even got to leave the property. You have a great time. All right, and that's a different story. And anyway, his cousin was about to go to the club Live, and the cover charge to get in that particular night was like $200. So for a regular person to come into the club, you're nobody. You got to pay $200 to get in. Him and his cousin, who's in his 20s, and a couple of his friends who were with him, they paid. They paid $200 a piece to get into the club. And again, this is a third person story he's telling me. He said it was $200 to get in, but it was worth it. The cousin said it was worth it. Why was it worth it? Because this rapper was there, this NBA player was there. It was a whole bunch of people in there, and they said it was worth to pay $200 just for the experience of having done it. Now, I'll argue on both sides. On the pro side, experiences are worth more than things. I'll tell all y'all that just as a human, just on a human level. If you pay money for an experience, that experience matters because that's life. I mean, that's what life is, experiences. So if you pay money to get an experience, you always got the story of having experienced that thing. So on that level, I get it. Now, on the other level, I personally would not pay $200 to stand around in the club and because some NBA player was there or some rapper. Only reason I would even go to a club, I don't go to clubs, but the only reason I ever went to clubs back in the day was to meet girls. I did not go to clubs to dance. I did not go to clubs to drink. I did not go to clubs to hang with men. I went to clubs to talk to girls. But if I could talk to girls without going to the club, then what the hell am I going to the club for? So I don't need to go to a club. I can go to Whole Foods and meet a girl. I can go to a yoga class and meet a girl. I can walk around South Beach and meet a girl. I don't need to go to a club. But everybody's different. All right, to each their own. So, old dog, I get your point. And it's a very important point. It's the reason why the nightclub business is thriving, especially down here in places like Miami, Atlanta, Vegas. Any of you ever walk past a club at night? I'll tell y'all something. I wake up early in the morning, I go run, right? And when I wake up early in the morning and run, I will run past the nightclubs in Miami. So there's a club here called, a real popular one called 11. There's a club called Space that's been around for a long time. There's a few others. It'll be like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be on my run, running past where the clubs are, and there'll be people leaving the club or it's just standing outside the club because there'll be a whole bunch of limo drivers and Uber drivers waiting to take people home, and there'll be people leaving the club, hanging out in front of the club, and I'm running past doing my workout. I'm saying that to say this, that's a thriving business. People pay money to do these things because it's entertainment for them. Yep. What all of you need to understand is most people live for the weekend. Living for the weekend means they are not stimulated by what they do 9 to 5, their quote unquote regular job. So they look forward to the weekend when they can spend the money that they made at work going to be entertained, like going to a nightclub. So anyway, Jason Campbell said Diddy is a monster. Well, what type of monster? He's a monster in multiple ways. He's a monster when it comes to doing music because he made a lot of great music. He's a monster when it comes to business because it seems like he did a lot of business. He's a monster sexually, I would say. Now, I don't know what kind of monster you're talking about. Politics says if God frees Diddy, we need to stop believing in God, especially for black people. I don't know about that one. You're making a moral case. I get what you're saying, but I don't know about that. Diddy contributed and signed on to continue to run the black community through hip hop. Yes, he did. That I agree with. And I get your angle on that. I get what you're saying, politics. Tara said, you are talking a lot of sense. Thank you. London is in the house. Shout out to London on YouTube. I'm a true believer in the Lord. He sees everything. Okay, fair enough. O-Dog said, I don't know what the motive for this shakedown is. For the feds? Well, it's taking down a person who has a lot of resources. If they win, they get to take all his shit. All right, that's Donald Trump's talking about how do we get some more money for the government. If they take all Puff shit, that's a lot of money. They get in fact, they get bite into the deficit. They take all Puff shit if he is allegedly what he says he is. He says he's a billionaire. All right, $1 billion would be like Elon. He'd be like Elon Musk, like Doge. All right, they're saving the government a lot of money. O-Dog said Dre was in the club, all in the videos dancing. Yeah, Suge Knight voice. I remember that. Y'all want the producers all in the videos. And Puff, the story about that is what's going on. G Joach over on Instagram. Story about that is Puff said that night when Suge Knight said that he was at the award show. Puff was there. So it seemed like Suge Knight was dissing Puff in front of Puff. And that show was in New York. And Puff said he went up to Suge after that and said, yo, was you talking about me? And he said, this is according to Puff. He said, Suge Knight said, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Jermaine Dupri. That's what Puff said that Suge Knight said. And if you were to believe that, what Puff was saying was, I had a whole lot of people with me in New York who was ready to ride on Suge Knight and his people for saying what he said because it's in New York. So Puff had more people than Suge had. And they would have basically saying we would have went at Suge Knight and beat him up, basically, because he said that and dissed me on stage in my hometown. But Suge Knight, allegedly, according to Puff, Suge said I wasn't talking about you. Everybody knows that was about Puff. But again, this is just Puff's version of the story. I never heard Suge Knight say that. But anyway, JT Coin Ring said he's going to be quiet like Cosby. I haven't heard a joke in years. Well, if he wins, we'll see. Austin Gallia said, great guy. Are you talking about me? If so, thank you. OK Wire said, am I a Meek Mill fan? I like a couple Meek Mill songs. I don't know if I'll call myself a fan. I like a few Meek Mill songs, though. I will say that. All right. So for whatever reason, I guess I can't swipe over to see more of the comments in bigger format when I got these boards up on the screen on TikTok. So I guess I got to scroll back as far as I can. So TikTok, I'm reading the comments now. If I missed your comment, don't be mad at me. I'm just reading what I can see, and there's way too many comments for me to read them all. So nothing personal if I don't read your comment. Okay. Margaret Bertrand, good morning, said, wouldn't you be? I don't know what you're responding to. Margaret said, like I said, do not be scared. Well, it depends. Depends on who that enemy is. I get it. Traditional said he didn't let Cassie put out music. Well, traditional, that might have been a good thing. All right, Cassie wasn't that great of a vocalist. All right, you ain't heard her put out. She broke up with Puff in 2018. It's 2025. How many Cassie songs we heard since then? All right, there's a reason for that. Pamela said Kim Porter. Well, she's not alive anymore, but her name will get brought up even more in this trial. They're not done. They're not done. There's more coming. Romello said the RICO falls under the scope of the Mann Act. Okay, fair enough. Yamar said the big beautiful bill. I'm going to talk about that. It's on the docket, Yamar. It's coming. Just not yet. It's coming. Jeremiah said Morris chest. Is that a euphemism? Romero said the defense has been on point with cross examinations. Yes, they have. And again, wait till they get to go on offense. Right now, they're playing defense. But when they get to go on offense, y'all gonna see. This ain't over. I'm telling y'all right now. This case is not over. Margaret said, I'm sure he got the best lawyer, so whether he is wrong or right, he will get off. I don't know about that, Margaret. That is too early to say. I need to hear what they argue. And it really just comes down to the jury. There's no real way to predict what's going to happen because the jury is 12 humans. And you can't predict what a human being is thinking or feeling. And they got to get all of them on the same page. What I say is, again, they got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. If Diddy's lawyers are any good, they so far should be able to win this case. But the case ain't over. So it's too early to say. I think either one could happen, though. Margaret said, I'm praying, but he doesn't, but who knows? Angelica said, only his mother. What about his mother? Anna said, nope, if I did not witness anything, he was a good person, yeah, I would get on the stand. You would get on the stand as a character witness for Diddy right now, given what we've heard already? That sounds good, Anna Lopez, but I don't believe you. I don't believe you would get on the stand. I don't think he would even ask anybody to get on the stand because he's putting anybody he asks to get on the stand, he's putting them in a very tough position to tell him no, even though they're his friend. But he needs to understand how he is putting someone else in a precarious position, putting their own reputation on the line by getting on the stand to defend him at a time when he's being trashed. His lawyers should understand that. And I don't think they're going to go that route anyway. I think the route they're going to go is these are not crimes. That's all they got to do. These are not crimes. Romello said they were swingers. That's all. Yeah, they admitted that at the beginning of the case. Puff's defense said Puff's a swinger. Now, this is what he likes to do. That ain't a crime. They said that in court. Margaret said, I'm praying that he doesn't get off. But who knows when you got a lot of money in this world? Well, a lot of people got a lot of money and didn't get off, Margaret. They can still lose, especially a Fed case. Sabrina said, if he's doing bad things, he's a bad guy. Sabrina, I would challenge you on that frame. Every human on the planet has done bad things. So that makes us all of us bad people. James Collins, 956, good morning. Traditional said, we need more likes, guys. Hit the likes. Hit the hearts. Yes, let's hit the likes, folks. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this live. I keep forgetting. So my moderators who are in here, please remind me to tell people to hit the likes when I start these lives because I always forget. We're at 40,000 likes, folks. It's 200 some people in here. I saw over 300 at certain points on TikTok. Can we get to 50,000 likes, please? Michelle, thank you for the hand hearts. Good to see you, as usual. Can we get to 50,000 likes, please, on TikTok? We're at 40,000. We should be way past 40,000 at this point. Margaret said, look at OJ. He got off. Yeah, it's only one person, though. Look at all the people who went to jail, whose names we don't know. Woke One said, any organization doing crime, it could be the Girl Scouts. Yeah, but the thing is, they had to prove it. That's the problem, is they got to prove that it was a crime. I'm not sure they can do that because you got to untangle a lot of stuff based on the way Puff lived. Romello said, this particular case was established for Jack Johnson years ago. The scope falls under the man. Okay. Woke said, not just the mafia, and you have a law degree. No, I don't have a law degree. So y'all are talking about the RICO goes back further. I get it. What I'm saying is these are some of the ways it was used, is what I was alluding to. So those of you talking about the man at. Pamela said, first time I haven't agreed with you. Okay, what's your disagreement? Bung Hole said, did he? Yes, he did. Did he what? What are you referring to? Margaret says, the children to me, I mean, I'm defending the children. They're the ones that are really suffering. Which, you talking about Puff's children? Well, yeah, technically you're right. Yes, they do get to suffer, especially the ones who are underage. I think Diddy's kids, they're not super young. I think his youngest daughter, she's probably in her teens. I mean, that's still young, but they're not babies. Bung said he will get away with it because he's loaded and a mobster. A lot of people saying that, but again, a lot of people got going to jail. Al Capone went to jail. John Gotti went to jail. Bill Cosby went to jail. Epstein went to jail. A bunch of people went to jail. R. Kelly went to jail. How are y'all saying this when all these people who we know went to jail? Even Donald Trump got convicted. He didn't go to jail, but he got convicted. Not Billable says, testimony is evidence in court. Are you saying that you disagree with how the court system works? No, not Billable. Straw man of the day. There we go. Straw man of the day, folks. We do this. Any of y'all who's new around here, we do this thing called the straw man of the day when someone rephrases something that I didn't say, and then they ask me a question to challenge something that I did not say. So not Billable, you just did it. I don't know if you did this on purpose. I doubt it. It's not personal, but you did do the straw man of the day. It could be accidental. You said testimony is evidence in court. Are you saying, y'all got to be very careful with this phrasing. Are you saying, so you're saying, so? Usually that's a tell for a straw man that is about to come. Are you saying that you disagree with how the court system works? Now, did I say that? Not Billable? No, I didn't. No, I'm not saying that. So to answer your straw man, your poorly framed straw man, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the evidence presented does not prove the charges that he is up against. So far, again, this case is far from over. That's what I said. I think I said that many times. So one thing I will tell all of you to avoid the straw man of the day, for all of you who are in here, if you want to avoid the straw man of the day award, here's all you do. Do not rephrase anything I said into your words, because I think I'm pretty good at putting words together. I do not need anyone's help in putting my thoughts into words. I'm pretty good at it. So as soon as you try to rephrase what I said into something that you say, you're probably making it worse. All due respect. I need no help rephrasing. So anyway, let's continue. Pamela said, you saw him kicking her. Yeah, I saw the video. I saw the video of him whipping her ass in front of that elevator. We all saw the video. Yes, he whipped her ass in front of that elevator. That's the reason this case exists, because of that video. They didn't have that video, they wouldn't have brought this case. They needed something strong enough to tilt sentiment against him, and that did. Margaret said, he is defending the law and what the law states, nothing else. Bung Ho say, drag that woman on camera and she will say she enjoys it. Well, she didn't say that. She already testified. We already know what happened with her. Anna said, thank you for saying what everyone is probably thinking. Well, that's kind of what I do here. Jen said he beat her and she enjoyed it. Did I say that? I think Jen Acedo, I think you get the second straw man of the day award because you put an eye roll. So I think you're trying to be sarcastic, but that kind of stuff doesn't work over here. But you do get the award. You do get the straw man of the day. Straw man of the day. I know I didn't say that. So anyway, continuing. Pamela said she was 17 when he met her. I think she was 18 or 19 and he was 37, I think is the specific number. But again, that's not a crime. Her being 17 is not a crime. Bunghold, you keep leaving the same comment. I got it. Margaret said, the things you do behind closed store in a case like this will come to light. Margaret, are you doing text to type? Sounds like you're texting to typing. You're doing text to type here because I know what you're saying, closed door, but I don't think you spelled it that way. Well, sometimes it depends on if you get charged, if it comes to light. Now, a lot of people do things behind closed doors that never come out. Antonio's in her on. Yeah, literally. This is the testimony. They said this in court that he would finish in her or on her, and then she would take the specimen and she would put it on Puff because he wanted that. He got off on this. No judgment. Margaret said the entertainment business is definitely done with him. Oh yeah, it's over for Puff. That we already know. That happened as soon as the video came out. When the video came out, him beating her ass, whether this became a court case or not, it was over. Because how are you going to go and dance on stage? You're not going to get the girls to dance to you because you just on video beating the girl up. That alone is enough to have ended all that. Let's see. Alfred plea. What is that, KJ? What are you referring to? Traditional said, I thought they already offered a plea deal. Yeah, I think they offered a plea deal before the case, but he said, no, let's go to trial. Now, what I'm saying is there are several people have said they think, based on the evidence that's been presented, because of how bad it makes Puff look, that he might tell his lawyers to go to the prosecution and try to get a plea deal again, that they might try to come back to the negotiating table. But the thing is, we don't know if that's happening, number one. Number two, we don't know if Puff is thinking that. Number three, even if he did, we don't know if the prosecution would be even willing to have that conversation. They might say, no, we actually think we're in a good spot. We're going to get your ass. We're not offering a plea deal anymore. We're not negotiating. We're just going to see where it goes. It's going to be one side or the other side. So all of these things could be at play right now. And again, depending on what they offer, if they say Rico and we get to take all your assets, why would Puff accept that? So if it is a plea deal, it's going to be a big negotiation on what he's pleading to, because he don't want to give up his money. Would you give up your money if you are a billionaire, allegedly a billionaire like Puff, and all your money comes from these assets, and they say if you plea, we got to take all your assets? Why would you do that? You might as well go to trial. So that might be why he didn't take the plea deal, because the plea deal might have said we get to take your assets. You only got to do 5 years in jail, but we get to take all your assets. Would you do that? If you were Puff, would you do that? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take that plea deal because they're taking all my assets. So it means I ain't got no money. I can't go back in the entertainment business already because of that video of me whipping Cassie's ass. I just did 5 years in jail. When I get out, I'm going to be 60. So what's he going to do? Go dance? You going to make a rap album? What is he going to do? I'm not taking that deal. I'll just take my chances. If I lose, I lose. I either win it all or I lose it all. That's the way I would be looking at it if I was Puff. So I understand. Now, again, I don't know the details of what the plea deal was. Margaret, appreciate you. James said, why can't we get reparations? Wrong topic today. Bung said, there will be a plea deal. I don't know about that. There already was a plea offer. He didn't take it. That's the thing. Let's see. Astro Black said he got it from doing great business deals and hits. It's a dirty game. Yeah, so, I mean, most of the money Puff made, I think we can all agree he made it, whatever money he made, whether it's $1 or $1 billion, he made it through entertainment. Now, we all know he's a famous entertainer. We listen to the music. We all saw him on TV every day. We know he was doing legitimate business. Whether you're a fan of him or not, he was doing legitimate business. So for them to say that the whole thing was a criminal enterprise and the business was just a front for the criminal activity is nonsense. There's no way they can prove that with Puff. Well, there is a way, but I don't think it's going to work. Let me say that. KJ said he will appeal if he loses. Nah, I don't know if the appeal is going to matter. If he gets convicted, I don't think the appeal is going to change anything. Red Top said, can you take his money and send a bank in another country in someone else's name? If they can find it, they can take it, Red Top. Let's put it that way. We're talking about the federal authorities. They know everything. Now, they can find out everything about you if they want to. They can find out how many diapers you went through when you were 6 months old if they want to. So if they can find it, they can take it. TT said, I hope we never see him in public again. TT, too early. Too early for that. Margaret said, I'm not mad at you doing what you got to do or what you don't have to do. KJ says, there's not much doubt on the way he treated women. I think there's doubt. We're only talking about one woman. The only woman that has been addressed so far is Cassie. And there are stories about Kim Porter, but Kim Porter is not alive anymore to speak for herself. Only woman been addressed is Cassie. So we got to say a woman, not women, plural. A woman. Elba said it's early on the trial. Yes, it is, because the defense hasn't even gotten their chance yet. TT said Kelly went to prison for far less. Yes, and because the public sentiment against him was already destroying his name. That's part of this. Even though the feds never say this, the court never says this. That's part of the deal. Is that if they can get public sentiment strongly against you, that is part of the momentum that they use to bring you to trial and get you convicted. That is part of the game, whether they admit it or not. That's a huge part of the game. Right now, public sentiment is strongly against Puff. And what you're saying is R. Kelly went to prison for less. Yes, I get it. The thing is, I don't think R. Kelly's lawyers are as good as Puff's. I think Puff has better lawyers than R. Kelly. And R. Kelly was actually doing the stuff that he got convicted of. He was doing it. He was moving girls around from state to state. They had the whole documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, talking about him literally doing it. So his case was a little bit easier, so to speak, easier for them to get him. Puff, I think, is a different beast. James said, the only club I mess with is the sandwich. Well, if I can make some money from the club, I would go in the club. If they offer me, hey, say, Dre, walk through the club in your suit and tie for $20,000, I'll walk through the club, drink some drinks, or pretend to drink some drinks, dance to some music, and collect my $20,000. I would do it too. If they offered it to me, I would do it. Pamela said, you are handsome and smart. I appreciate your page. Thank you, Pamela. All right, this is the compliment of the day. Thank you. I think we got to come up with a new award, moderators. Compliment of the day. So if we're going to point out the straw man of the day, we need the compliment of the day. So Pamela Yanner gets the compliment of the day award. Thank you, Pamela, for the compliment of the day. And you got number 3 gifted badge. Congrats. Both sides are crooks, said the news control Diddy and the music industry. Oh, well, you said the news, then you changed that into a J. Yeah, I get it. I get it. We got to be careful what we say on here, though. I got to be careful what comments I read on here. Flavor Barbie said, you're only reading the same people question. I'm just reading the questions as they're popping up. We're at 60,000, folks. Thank you. Can we get to 65, please? Can we get to 65,000? I'm not going to get through all these comments, folks. So please, someone said Diddy has a toddler too. Yeah, he did have a baby not too long ago, right? Yeah, so he has a younger one. Let's see. I'm not going to get through all these comments, folks. Again, nothing personal if I don't read your comment. There are too many comments for me to read them all. Tillman Givens, good morning, sir. Flavor Barbie said, do you think the defense will name some celebrities' involvement? You mean like to defend Diddy? I don't think so, for the reason I explained above, that I don't think they were going to put anybody else in the position to be in a line of fire and trying to defend him character-wise. I don't think they're going to do that. Do I think they will call Jay-Z to the stand? The feds? No. The feds are not going to call Jay-Z. If Jay-Z gets called, that would be the defense, and Jay-Z could just say, no, I'm good. I 99% am sure Jay-Z ain't taking the stand in this case. Jay-Z is not that kind of guy to go talk about shit that is like controversial. He just stays quiet. You heard Jay-Z say nothing. All right, and there's a reason for that. Michael said, good morning. His money on froze now. Yeah, exactly. And he in jail anyway, so it's not like he can spend it. And he can't send anybody else to spend it either because the money's froze. So TT said, we have to give Puff credit for not naming anyone else. Well, his defense hasn't made their case yet, so it's too early for that. Right now, the prosecution is doing their thing, and then the defense gets to do their thing. So the defense hasn't had their shot yet. Too early. Miss McCoy said, do I think Justin Bieber will testify? If so, we'll be on the Fed side, and we haven't heard yet. But a lot of people are speculating that he might. I don't know. I think Justin Bieber would try as hard as he can to not have to testify, to avoid that subpoena. I don't think he wants to go up there because anything that he says is not only going to be against Puff, it's going to hurt his brand. So whatever brand Justin Bieber has, anything he gets on that stand and admits to that makes Puff look bad is going to make him look bad. And again, Justin Bieber has a career too. So I don't think he wants this. Red Top said, can they take money from his banks in another country? If they can find it, they'll take whatever they can. The feds will take anything they can find. They can find it, they will take it. If they know you got it, they'll get it. A Reeve said, did the casting information pop up from the investigation of Diddy and his kids on the yacht party? What information? The video was the thing that set this whole thing off. So I don't know what you're referring to there. Tillman said, would you be opposed to being on my podcast for fatherhood? Now, why'd you ask it that way? Would I be opposed? I'm open to it. Send me a DM. Or just send me an email if you got my email address. Anna Lopez said, I have nothing to lose. He is my friend. Yes, I would get on the stand. You have nothing to lose? Well, then the problem with that, Anna, all due respect, is that if you have nothing to lose, then your testimony wouldn't hold much weight. What holds weight is people who have something to lose going up there and testifying on his behalf. That has more power. So if Jay-Z got on the stand and testified on behalf of Diddy, that testimony will mean a lot because Jay-Z has a lot to lose by putting himself next to Puff in this situation. But if you have nothing to lose, and if Puff was to call some fucking bus driver from Harlem to get on the stand and defend him, okay, the bus driver can say all great things about Puff, but what is that worth? It's not worth anything because nobody cares who the bus driver is. You get what I'm saying here, Anna Lopez? Parsons said they should have got his mother a better wig. Oh, she got a wig on? I didn't see her. Robert said those are all grown people. We got about 10 minutes left on this live, folks, and we'll wrap this up. Robert said these are all grown people. They were doing what they wanted to do. That's one thing a lot of people are saying. We'll see. Bonnie said, do you think he would want to go on the stand? No, Puff ain't taking the stand. Puff is not taking the stand. Michael said, are you a lawyer? No, I just play one on TikTok. Red Top said, can I take his money? All right, yeah, I've got that question asked like 6 times. Lance West said, where was all this energy for Trump? Are you talking about me specifically? Check my receipts. Go to YouTube, check my receipts. The replay of every live I've done is on YouTube. If I'm lying, you come back and let me know tomorrow. Let's see. So people asking if I'm a lawyer. No. He got my lighter, said, starting to look like a morality case. Starting to look like, where you been? This has always been a morality case. This whole case against Puff is about his morals, and they're trying to convict him on a morality approach. That's how they're trying to convict him. Again, that's not what he's going to get convicted of, but that's what they're trying to use against him. That's the whole point. The whole job of the feds is to put so much pressure on you from all sides that you feel like you have no choice but to go along with what they want, capitulate and go along with what they want. That's the reason that they do what they do. They put the squeeze on you. That's the whole point. Areve said, just graduated high school. You did? Congratulations. Congrats, Areve 830 for graduating from high school. Chrissy Rock said he has a toddler. Okay, how old is his kid? I did hear he had a kid maybe not too long ago. So how old is that youngest kid? Maybe 2, 3, something like that? Margaret said, all the children he molested. That's what I was talking about. Who are you talking about? Who's he? His daughter's under 5. Yeah, so how old is that kid? The youngest one. Cornerman said Cassie got $30 million for what she not saying about what she knows. No, she got $30 million for saying it. The feds went to her first. They told her to go file the lawsuits. This is my theory. They told her to go file the lawsuits. She did. She got her $30 million. Then they said, okay, and they had all this coordinated. They had her locked in first. Well, you're going to be our star witness, and we're granting you immunity. We need you to tell us everything. Put it in a lawsuit against Puff. She put all those details in a lawsuit against Puff. That lawsuit can be used in court against her. So they said, file the lawsuit. Everything you share in a lawsuit, everything you tell us, we won't prosecute you for it because you're going to help us. So she's already signed to work for them. Then she filed the lawsuits. Then she got her money. All right, Cassie, you got your $30 million. You already signed to work with us. Now just do this. And everything in that lawsuit was probably very accurate, which is why Puff settled. And I bet the feds helped her put together that lawsuit. That's just my theory. I'm not reporting that. My theory is the feds helped Cassie come up with that lawsuit against Puff and put everything in it that was in it. And when Puff saw the lawsuit, he said, oh, shit, there's a bunch of this shit is true. He settled the lawsuit. She got her $20 million. And then they went with that video and they went and got their case. So the feds actually did this. This is not a chess move by Cassie. This is a chess move by the feds using Cassie as a pawn in the process. Cassie is simply a pawn in this game to try to get Puff. Cassie is not the one they're trying to get. They're trying to get Puff. They just used her. And when they got that video of her getting her ass beat, she couldn't deny that she was involved. Again, they broke up in 2018. It's 2025. They filed the charge in 2024. What were they waiting for 6 years? They ain't have shit. They couldn't go to Cassie and make her go along with it because, first of all, the only way they have a case is if they have a witness who said, I was on the inside and I saw all of it. That's Cassie. They couldn't get Cassie to go along with it because she was being quiet. But when that video came out, she couldn't act like shit didn't happen anymore. That's how they got her. They trapped her. She got paid $30 million and got trapped at the same time. Both things are true. When BJ said, where are the charges? She settled and never called the police. Yes, that's what people are saying in defense of Puff. With 69,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 75 in this last 7 minutes before we wrap this up? Can we get to 75,000 likes, folks, please? Clifton said, why call people straw man of the day? Well, I'm not calling a person a straw man. Straw man is a form of an argument. It's a logical fallacy. I'm not saying they are, but what they presented was a straw man. Jenna said, when was the video? I don't know when that video actually happened. I think the video happened, the ass beating in the elevator area was, I think, 2016, but it didn't come out until, when that video come out? Like 2 years ago? A year and a half ago? That's when the video came out. So, again, they were sitting on that. Let's see. Athena said, hell to the no, definitely taking chances. BJ says, all about the liquor. What do you mean? Athena said, are you new here? Are you an attorney? Enjoying the diplomacy? I'm not an attorney. Every day somebody asks me if I'm an attorney. I am not an attorney. I am not past the bar. I have not gone to law school. But I do like to make logical and objective arguments and use logical and objective reasoning when talking about situations. So I guess that's the reason people always wonder if I'm a lawyer. On top of the fact that maybe I'm dressed the part as well. But I am not a lawyer. Let's see. Nikki said, are his accounts frozen while he's on trial? Some people are saying that they are. So I didn't know that to be true, but some people are saying that they are. I would suspect they probably are. I would suspect they are because he's in custody. So it's not like they let him out. I think because of that, he is. Lady Ree said, I think Capricorn testimony is going to do him in. Yeah, so Capricorn was one of Diddy's big assistants or like right hand men, but she's a woman, assistants. She's about to testify, I think maybe this upcoming week. And again, she's a Fed witness and she got subpoenaed. So it's not like you can say no. Like, you got to show up in court. They find you, they give you the subpoena, you got to go. And she's going to testify. And I think on some levels it's going to hurt Puff. And on some levels it's going to help him, though, because he was doing actual business. She was working for him doing real business. So it's not like he was just doing crime all day and she was helping him. So we'll see what she says. It just depends on what she says. Athena said, lots of doubt. I would like him to do time just based on Cassie vid, but not providing evidence. That's a fair enough compromise, Athena. I think that's a reasonable way of looking at it. That if Diddy does some time just for whipping Cassie's ass at that elevator, then some people could be satisfied by that without him getting all the time for all this other shit that they're claiming that he did. I don't know if that compromise is possible, though. I get what you're saying, though. That's actually a good way of looking at it. Tillman said, you are a phenomenal father. Thank you. How do you know? Donald said, I admire your confidence and your style of attire. Thank you. So here's the second compliment of the day. Oh, Tillman too. All right. So I think y'all giving me compliments because I mentioned the compliment of the day award. All right. So there, Tillman number 2, Donald number 3. Simply here said, do you have a real job? No. I don't have a real job. No, I just sit here and talk on TikTok. That's what I do. Let's see. Donald said, what do I think of Cat Williams' testimony that implicates, well, it wasn't a testimony, it was him talking on Shannon Sharp's podcast. I think he was telling the truth. Do I think he's going to testify? I don't know. Maybe. Bonnie said, do you think the feds were watching Puff before the video came out? Hell yeah, they were watching him. If you're that visible, you're being watched. Anybody who has that level of visibility, you are being watched by federal authorities. Now, it's just a matter of what they see when they're watching you. And if they feel like they have a reason to bring a case against you, then they will. But if they don't find anything, they'll leave you alone. But if you have that level of attention and notoriety, they are watching you. All of y'all are being watched, as a matter of fact. Every one of you listening to this, if you live in America, you're being watched. Now, if you ain't doing anything, then they leave you alone. They're still watching. And if they have a reason to come after you, they'll get you. And they like to go after big fish. Puff is a big fish. Now, if you're some regular person working at McDonald's, they have no reason to bring you to trial because the amount of money they got to spend to get you is not worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze. But if they get Puff convicted, all these prosecutors, this is a career case for them. This will be a huge boost to their careers that they're the one who took Puff Daddy down, or P. Diddy, or whatever you call him. So everybody has an incentive here. Bonnie said, what do you do for a living? You seem very knowledgeable, not a lawyer. I run a company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is coaching and consulting for businesses, professionals, and entrepreneurs. We take the tools. My background is as a professional athlete, so we take the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world. We create a system that translates the tools from the sports world to the business world to help people perform at their highest level, to do so consistently, and of course, produce more results, such as making money, making sales, etc. And by the way, I'm about to open up my Circle membership back in Work on Your Game University. Is going to be $97 a month for people who are looking to get some momentum and make progress in your business, but you may not be quite ready for our highest level coaching and consulting. That's going to be called The Circle. It's going to be coming out this week. If you're interested in that, just send me a DM with, just put The Circle. Just say The Circle in the DM to let me know that you're interested, and we'll be getting you more information as soon as it's ready, which might be by the end of the day tomorrow or today. So again, just send me a DM with The Circle if you're interested in The Circle, which would be $97 a month group coaching program. You get 2 group coaching calls with me every month. You get to get on the hot seat, bring your challenges, bring your questions. I'll address them. And you get to hear me address other people's stuff. You get access to the replays. You get access to my Dre GPT chatbot for free. And you'll get access to our private group coaching group. So our private WhatsApp group for everybody who's in the program. You'll get access to that too. Just send me a DM with the phrase, The Circle. And again, it'll be $97 a month. We'll be announcing that this week. As soon as I get done answering these questions on TikTok, that's when I get to work on that. All right, so let me see what else we got. Marky Man said, thank you for your time, counselor. You're welcome. A couple more questions. We got less than a minute here, then we'll wrap this up. Michael said, pursue being a lawyer. Hell no, I'm not pursuing being a lawyer. That, first of all, required me going back to college. That's not happening. Secondly, required me going to law school. Also not happening. Third, required me studying for and passing a test. Also not happening. Fourth, will require me going and working inside a bureaucratic environment such as the legal system. Also not happening. And last, require me doing a whole bunch of paperwork or hiring people to do paperwork. Also not happening. So only thing I would like about being a lawyer is being able to make arguments in cases, but that's only when you're in actual court. But from what I understand, being a lawyer is a whole lot of, just a whole lot of procedural shit that has nothing to do with actually talking like what I'm doing right now. So no, thank you. I would not become a lawyer. I'll just keep playing a lawyer on TikTok. I'm satisfied with playing a lawyer on TikTok. That's the closest I'll get to the legal system. McLean said they should absolutely pressure Cat Williams to testify. Well, it depends on what he knows. It depends on what he would have to have actually seen something. And according to what he said on the podcast, he didn't really see anything. It's just that Puff propositioned him and he said no. That's all he said. So what is that? That don't prove anything. All Cat Williams said on his podcast, on the Shannon Sharp podcast, was that Puff propositioned Cat Williams. Basically, what sounds like he propositioned Cat Williams for a sexual endeavor, and Cat Williams turned Puff down. That's not a crime to ask. It's not a crime to turn it down. So there's nothing to testify about. There's nothing there. I mean, it sounds good, but there's nothing there. Bung said, do you think he will get away with it because he has money? No. He has a chance because he has money, because he can pay good lawyers. That doesn't necessarily mean that he got away with anything. He could probably be innocent. Y'all need to understand, innocence and guilt in the United States of America is based on how much money you have. It's not based on if you're actually innocent or actually guilty. If you get charged with a crime and you're broke, you might end up in jail even if you're innocent. And if you get charged with a crime and you're rich, you could end up walking even if you're guilty. Why? Because of your money. All right, the legal system in the United States of America is not about innocence or guilt. It's about if you can afford to prove that you're innocent. If you cannot afford to prove that you're innocent, do not go to court. Do not get arrested. That's a word of wisdom to everybody who's listening to this. Or if you know anybody who is capable of doing something that can end up in court, if you don't have money to hire a lawyer, do not get arrested because you might end up in jail. Well, if you get arrested, technically you got to go to jail. But I mean, you may end up with a criminal sentence simply because you're broke. If you have no money, the legal system will railroad your ass right into incarceration. That's how it is. Belfer said, you killed him on a Whitlock show. He had no idea he was a guest on his own show, and the rest of the panelists were in the audience. Sorry to hear about the circle. I didn't talk that much that last time I was on there, but hopefully they'll have me on there again. He got my lighter, said, Fed's probably watching since Biggie. Yeah, they probably have been. They've been watching Puff for 25, 30 years, just like he got my lighter said. Yeah, they've been watching Puff forever. They just waiting for something to use against him. They just needed something. And they watching a lot of people who they didn't bring charges against. So understand, just because they're watching him doesn't mean something's going to happen. You got to do something. Now he did something. Now they got him. I am Ruko said PD's part of a syndicate, well protected old syndicate, and most he's a small scapegoat. Some have said that. I'm Ruko. I get where you're coming from. I get what you're saying. All right, so 80K, folks. Thank you, everybody, for getting me to 80K. This should have been 100K today. If I've been paying attention and told you all from the beginning, we would have got to 100. So I'll take responsibility for that. In the future, moderators, just remind me to tell people to like the live so that I can get the like activity running from the beginning and not wait till I'm halfway through it. Jenna said, definitely about money. Just look at those with DUIs versus in jail and out who had a lawyer or money. Yes, the legal system in America is all about money. In case any of you didn't know, it is all about money. If you have no money and you end up in court, you're in trouble. If you have money and you end up in court, you're still in trouble, but you got a chance to get out of trouble because you can afford it. Legal system in America is money, money, money. Notice why so many people get law degrees. I don't have a law degree. So anybody asking if I'm a lawyer, I am not a lawyer. The reason a lot of people get law degrees because the legal system is highly structured. So it's similar to going to school. It's a very structured system. It tells you to do A, B, C, D. Most people don't want to have to figure things out on their own. So the legal system tells you exactly what to do. If you follow it, you're usually going to be in a good spot. And there's always money to be made because people are always getting arrested and going to court. So the legal system is a good route to go if you're not sure what you want to do with your life and you want to be sure you have some income. Become a lawyer. You ever seen a broke lawyer? I ain't never seen a broke lawyer. Now, I ain't saying every lawyer is rich, but most lawyers ain't broke. Why? Because there's always work. Why is there always work? Because the United States is the most litigious society in the world. Everyone's always getting sued. Everyone's always getting arrested. And to hire a lawyer, you have to pay money. So any of you is not sure what you want to do with your life, go to law school and get a law degree. You'll at least know that you got some money coming in. Now, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I wouldn't suggest everybody go be a lawyer. But if your only consideration is just want to know I got some money, go be a lawyer. All right, there's always work. You never seen a lawyer with no money. No such thing. So anyway, Michelle said, my sister is a lawyer. She is never broke. Of course she ain't. As long as you got a grasp of the law, the legal system, and you know how to read, all right, you can make money as a lawyer. You'll never be broke because there's always somebody who did something stupid that end up in court. People are always ending up in court in the United States of America. So if you're a lawyer, you will always have work. Okay, so any of you want to guarantee yourself a job, become a lawyer. Or you want your kids to be guaranteed a job, tell them to go into law. Now, a lot of people go into law for this very reason because they know they're going to make money. Same reason people go into medicine. Medicine is a little bit harder because it's more school and it costs more money because you got to be in it longer, but it's a similar situation. You're guaranteed to have a job because there's always somebody sick. There's always somebody dying. There's always somebody with a broken arm or somebody who's coughing for a week and they go to the doctor. There's always money if you're a doctor. There's always money if you're a nurse. There's always money if you're a lawyer. So if you want to guarantee yourself money, become a doctor or a lawyer or get on OnlyFans because there's always somebody willing to pay for sex. Now, that one was a joke, but the first two are not a joke. Okay, everybody. All that said, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I'm usually done by 10 a.m. It's 10:10 right now, so I went a little bit over today, but I'm usually done by 10. And I'm usually done by 10. And tomorrow's topic is to be determined. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. I do know that on the docket, I will tell you what's on the docket, that tomorrow we might be talking about this one big, beautiful bill about Trump. We'll come back to the subject that I, quote unquote, am always talking about. Some people try to criticize, say, Jerry, why are you always talking about Trump? I ain't talked about Trump in like 2 weeks, but we might talk about Trump again tomorrow. We might talk about him again tomorrow with the one big, beautiful bill. I have some notes on that I will get to, but we might not talk about Trump tomorrow because we might talk about Puff again. I think I like talking about Puff more than I like talking about Trump. I don't know. Maybe that's my racial bias, or I talk about the black guy and the white guy, but we'll talk about something tomorrow to be determined. You'll see. You want to learn more about working with me, then you can go to the links in my profile. You want to get a copy of my free book called The Third Day. Can y'all see that right there where it says thirddaybook.com? Can y'all see that on TikTok? Y'all click on this right here. It says thirddaybook.com. You can get a free copy of my book called The Third Day. That's this book you see right here, this red book. The Decision Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. That is this right here. This book is that link right there, thirddaybook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. You can get this book by going to that link, thirddaybook.com. We will mail you a physical copy of this book, not a PDF, a physical copy of this book. Go to thirddaybook.com. Just cover the shipping. That's where you can get that. Someone said, I want to hear you talk about the Blake case. Who is Blake? Blake Griffin? I think you're talking about Blake Lively. Who is Blake Lively? Some white woman actress? I've heard of it. I hear Megyn Kelly talking about it often, but I'm not really interested. I don't watch movies, so I don't even know who that bitch is. So I doubt that case will be brought up here. I've heard about it, but I don't really know much about it, and I'm not really interested. Now, Puff, I'm interested. Trump, I'm interested. Blake Lively, I'm not interested. So I probably won't talk about that. Anyway, all that being said, everybody, let's wrap this up. Thank you for the suggestion, though, Jenna. I've heard of it, but I doubt we're going to get to it. All that being said, everybody, let's wrap this one up. I need to go to the bathroom. I usually take a bathroom break about halfway through this. I didn't take the break today, so I really need to go to the bathroom. All y'all have a great Tuesday. I will see you tomorrow. Again, send me a DM with the circle. You want to learn about getting into our group coaching program, and we will be here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, Candace Owens has talked about it as well. And I skipped those videos when she starts talking about that because I have no idea who that woman is. All right, everybody have a great day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Work on your game. We out. Belfort Williams, I saw you over there on IG. Yeah, send me a DM with the circle. I'll tell you more about it when it's ready. It'll be soon.